shaking my body down.
Friday, August 27th from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Join the Club DJ Legends of DC for a live discussion about the history of the DC club scene during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Featuring DJ Cool, DJ Mandrill, Arthur Maniac Mcleod, Superfunk Regulator CeeLo, James Funk, Sir Charles Dixon, DJ Iran, DJ Mike Sky, DJ Clayton LaBeouf, DJ Eardrum, DJ Gary L. Drew, Super DJ Greg Diggs, and moderator Grover Massenberg. Also, a special tribute to the late, great Sam the Man Burns and DJ Tommy Hall. Streaming live on Zoom and YouTube.
I'm out on the dance floor, shaking my body down.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Grover Massenberg. I'm the moderator for the conversations with the DC Club DJs. We're going to talk about a little bit of history tonight. We're going to talk about some clubs you probably haven't heard about in a while. And we're going to have a fun conversation tonight. So I'm going to start off by introducing the DJs by reading their names and talking about the clubs they played in. So we're going to get started. Oops. Well, we're live, but anyway, we're going to start with Maniac Mcleod. Maniac played at the Room in the Ibex. Clayton LaBeouf played at the Mark IV, the French Underground, Demetrius, Ed Murphy's Supper Club. DJ Mandrill, the Clubhouse, the Ritz, Kilimanjaro, and LA Cafe. Gary L. Drew, Chapter 3, Eastside, the Ibex, Utopia, Rhythms, and the Mirage. Eardrum, the Foxtrot, Oak Tree, the Chateau, and he also ran Tables of Distinctions Record Pool. DJ Cool, Paragon 2, The Room, The Classics,
Ibex, the East Side, and probably about 10 more clubs.
Okay.
He also run his mouth too.
Okay.
Yeah, what?
Well, you better get into that. Cool. We'll get into that a little bit. Okay. DJ Mike Sky, the Ritz, Chicago's, Sir Charles Dixon, the Dome, Chapter 3, Tracks, Cities, East Side, and WPGC mix show. DJ Iron, the Ritz, Republic Gardens, Spy Club, Platinum, H2O, DC Live, Blitz, WKYS Mix Show. DJ Super Regulator CeeLo, the Kilimanjaro, the Clubhouse, the Ritz, the Opera, WKYS Mix Show, WPGC Mix Show.
And a million other clubs.
And a million other clubs, okay. Okay, DJ Greg Diggs, Super DJ Greg Diggs, Raphael's, the Chapter 2, Tiffany's, the Classics, the Ritz, WKYS Mega Mix. Well, guys, we can only put so many on the card. But anyway, I know some of you guys probably played at far more places than that. But anyway, we're gonna.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna pass it on to Greg Diggs.
Well,
Greg.
we're going to talk about how the panel got started. What happened was I had gotten a phone call from a friend of mine named Lorenzo, and he told me that the Classics was closed and it was going to be turned into a funeral home. So that just really hit me in my gut. So I've spent so many years with the Classics, had so many great memories of the Classics. So that day I posted something on my Facebook page and I got pretty good response. And the next day, Grover Massenberg called and said, Greg, man, you got to do something. You got to do a Zoom call or something, to talk about the classic and the history of the classic and what you did down there. And I was like, Grover, man, if I'm going to do something like that, I've already written a book about me. My book is entitled The Musical DNA of Greg Diggs. And it chronicles my career as a music DJ, a club DJ, working at WKOS with Donnie Simpson, programming the music videos at BET, and being one of the first program directors of Satellite Radio at Sirius XM. So I'm like, if I'm going to do something like this, I want to include all of the DJs in DC. I don't want to just talk about me. So because of that, Grover and I kicked around some ideas, and I made some phone calls, and the results of those phone calls are the people that you see here on the screen. One person, people that's not here, is James Funk. He was supposed to be here, but he had some issues today, so he's not going to be on a panel tonight. But another person that I made a phone call to that would have been here, but told me that they couldn't make it because they had some issues with their internet, is Tito Robinson. And that's somebody that I just have so much respect for, and I really would have liked for Tito to be here, but he said that he lives in Florida now, and it's difficult for him to get internet reception down there. So we weren't able to have Tito. But one thing that I wanted to make perfectly clear, these people on this panel, these are the people that I respect. These are the DJs that I looked up to back in the day. And I want to also make it perfectly clear that the people on this panel are not the only DJs in DC that made it happen back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There's a whole lot of other DJs that were really doing it and made history in DC. And this panel is to uplift all of the DJs from the DC area from the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. And we want to give them their props as well. Another reason why I wanted to have this panel is because I lost two very, very different Sam the Man Burns and Tommy Hall. I worked with Sam at Chapter 2 and at Tiffany's. And Sam and I were very, very close. We started off around the same time. We talked about music all the time. We also talked about movies because he was a movie buff as well. But I had so much respect for Sam, and just as a person, but also he's one of the most incredible DJs to ever touch turntables. So I just said I couldn't possibly have this panel without talking about Sam Burns and the contributions that he's made to music in DC. The other person is Tommy Hall. I worked with Tommy closely at the Classics. We opened that club together. And Tommy was just a character. We had a lot of fun down there. He kept me laughing, but Tommy was also a phenomenal DJ.
It's phenomenal.
He just did so much for the DC music scene. So there's no way possible that we could have this panel without talking about Tommy Hall's contributions and Sam Burns' contributions to the music scene. So what I want to do right now is, in honor of Sam and Tommy, we want to have a 15-second moment of silence in honor of them, and also Chucky Thompson, who is a local producer who produced music for Mary J. Blige, Biggie, and a whole lot of other people. He just passed recently. He's from DC. And also Mike Kidd, who was a local promoter in DC. He just passed. So I would like to just take this time to do a 15-second moment of silence for all the people that I just mentioned, and all of the club DJs that we've lost, and all of the club influencers that we've lost over the years. So at this time, let's just take 15 seconds to give them the honor that they deserve. All right.
Amen.
You, Tommy. That was you, Sam. Oh, Grover, one more before I pass it over to you. I got to mention that video that you played earlier was produced by Montez Miller, and she worked with me at BET. She was one of the producers for Video Soul, and she produced that promo for us. Yeah. Also, I have to thank Jeannie Brown Johnson for lending her beautiful voice to that promo. I've always liked Jeannie's voice. She worked for me at BET as well. So thank you, Jeannie. I really do appreciate it. So now I'm gonna pass it back to you, Grover. Let's get it rolling, man.
Yeah, I also want to thank both of them. I mean, and I love the way Jeannie pronounced my name. I mean, Massenberg. Most people can't say it. She got it definitely. I'm gonna start off by tossing a few questions around. Matter of fact, I want everybody to answer this question. Okay, I'm gonna start with Maniac Mcleod. Okay. How did you get your start as a club DJ, Maniac?
Actually, I used to party at the Black Crystal all the time, and me and my partners, the guy at halftime, what I call at halftime, this is when they take up the drinks. All drinks had to be taken up at 2:00, and they announced that they wanted a reserve DJ at the Black Crystal. And my friend said, "Oh man, you be the shoe-in," because I used to play records for everybody in the neighborhood and at parties. And his friend, I told him I couldn't do it. I said, "I'm too shy, man. I can play for people that I know, but for me to come out here and play in front of this crowd and all these people, I can't do that." So one of my partners signed me up anyway, because when you grow up with people, they know your parents' name, they know your parents' phone numbers and all your information. So they filled out a card. So when we went back to the Crystal the next weekend and they announced the people that they had for reserved DJ auditions to come back and see them the next week, they announced Arthur Mcleod. I said, "Wait a minute, I didn't apply for this." And they said, they showed me the card with my name and all the information on it. And so I said, "Okay, I'll go ahead and do this." And I came in and auditioned, and next thing they loved what I did. And next thing I knew, I was the star DJ at the club. There were 3 DJs. They had them playing from 2 hours apiece, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, and 2 to 4. They started me out at 10 to 12, and then I ended up being the star DJ, the headliner from 2 to 4, after only being there for 2 months because of my talents.
Wow.
And that's how I started at the Black Crystal.
And I remember those days because I was working with Berg Music at the time, and that was one of the clubs we used to service.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
same question goes out to Charles Dixon. Sir Charles Dixon, I'm sorry.
So, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Well, I started as like most DJs start as a bedroom DJ, and then when I got to University of Maryland, I started DJing on campus, like small parties, and then I ended up DJing for the student union, then all the fraternities, sororities, played at Prinkett Gym, which is a big gym for most of the athletic events, but they had parties there. We used to kill it in the party scene. So then after leaving Maryland, I joined OMAP Record Pool in '85. And the funny story is I actually started my residence at the Dome from working as the light man at Chicago's with Reggie, DJ Reggie, Billboard reporter that worked at 12-inch Dance Records. So
Reggie Wilson.
Yeah, Reggie Wilson, right. Yeah. So one day this guy came in, he's like, "Look, I'm about to start a club. I want to talk to Reggie. I want him to DJ." But Reggie was like, "I don't talk to anybody when I'm DJing." I said, "Well, I DJ. So we'll come down and audition," because I'm starting this club called the Dome. I went down audition and got like 5 nights. And it was like, I played 4 nights a week. And the nights that I wasn't spinning, I was doing lights. So that's how I got the start at the Dome. And then from the Dome, I got tracks, and then also got WPGC from the Dome. Albie D actually discovered me in the Dome, and he wanted me to do what I was doing in the Dome on the radio, because I was playing like an open format from like every genre. Because being at OMAP, I was the chart editor, so I had to do all 75 DJs charts. Greg was in the pool, Gary was in the pool, Sam was in the pool, Ira was in the pool, Cool was in the pool, like we were all in the pool. And so from those charts, I would make a list of top 5 songs from every genre, and I did a mix at the Dome to bring everybody in. So from Georgetown students to lawyers, businessmen, the whole entire Southeast Hood, they were up in there. It was a beautiful experience. Different cultures, Africans, Middle Eastern, I mean, you name it, everyone was in this club. And it was Washingtonian Club of the Year for '86 after being there for about 6 months. They got Washingtonian Magazine write-up, so that was kind of cool. And then from there, I got PGC from Albie D coming to the Dome and seeing what I was doing.
All right, thank you.
That was my start.
Wow.
Okay. Brother Mike Sky, DJ Mike Sky.
Well, I had a way more humble start than most of y'all, because I started out kind of like Charles. I started DJing, wanting to DJ at Morgan State University. Okay. I was at Morgan, and I had a roommate that used to do pause tape. and that got me interested. And then I found a club called Odell's. And Odell's really opened my ears up to a lot of different music and that kind of thing. And then when I left Morgan, came home, I started the mobile set. So I was doing a lot of house parties and that kind of thing. And little do y'all know, but back then my name was the DC Dog Catcher. Exactly.
Whoa.
Right about the time George Clinton's record came out. That was short-lived. So I did a lot of mobile stuff. I kind of came up doing some cabarets and that kind of thing. And then I got an opportunity at the Ritz. The Ritz opened in 1990. And I feel like I made my bones at the Ritz. I got there and I was there from 90 till about 2002 as a residency. So that was a beautiful thing. And as you can see, we all have ties to the Ritz. Almost all the DJs on this panel played there at some point in time. So that was a great experience for me. That's kind of how I got my start. And of course, a lot of that came from also being in record stores. So I started at Kent Mill Records in 1983, then left Kent Mill and went to 12-inch Dance Records in 90. And I became the buyer there and also became a Billboard reporter there. Right. So I was doing Billboard charts and taking calls from labels and all that. That was a lot of fun and a great experience. So just a record store, buying records, having seen all the DJs coming in, that helped my DJ game too. So I would kind of take those records and take them to the Ritz and play them. And, that was a great experience for me. So that's kind of how I made, and then after that, I took a break from the Ritz after they closed and started at Bay Street. Okay, beautiful. And I was at Bay Street up until COVID hit. So I'm talking maybe 12 years at Bay Street. So that was kind of my DJ. That's sort of my DJ career from that perspective.
Okay, I'm gonna call him Brother Clayton LaBeouf. He just joined us. Clayton, asking how did you get started? DJ? Hey, Clayton.
Say, how's everybody doing, man? I just chatted on there with Greg. Good to see everybody. My journey, it was an interesting one. I came to DC in like around 74. I had a gig at the Bureau of Rehabilitation. I was a substance abuse counselor at a very young age. I had a caseload of about 23 people who had substance abuse problems. And we had to try to counsel a large number of people in the DC area who had problems with drugs. And at the same time, I had an opportunity to meet David Sims and Smitty the Mighty Blazer. And I had brought some records down from Yonkers, New York, which is my hometown. I brought some records down because I used to spin in one of the buildings for young people. But I wasn't doing the mix. I do the one turntable and put the next one on fast. By that time we got we got here, the technology had changed, and I met Smitty, and he invited me to audition at the French Underground, which is on DuPont Circle, the 70s. So you're talking about 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I came in. The place was packed. It was a small spot. You literally had to go underground. I think art space now. DuPont Circle, I think, is like an art space. I haven't been. I got on the turntables. What's that?
I said they called that Chicago's after they called that was Chicago's after a while, right?
Right.
Is that right? I don't know. Right now, I think there's just some art spaces down there, but this is one DuPont Circle.
You're talking about the space I hit that audience circle. Yeah, that's
underneath. Yeah, underneath.
Yeah, I know. That's
interestingly enough. The club itself had swings at the bar. Imagine that. Oh. Swings that you put your children on. You put the children on swings. That's what they had at the bar. I get in there and I go up on the two turntables and I hit them hard. Because I used to go to clubs in New York like Le Martinique, places like the Act 3 right there in Times Square. There were a number of clubs in DC that were, spinning records. So I came down here. I hit this crowd with some very interesting mixing. And Smitty knew right away. He said, yo, bro. And Smitty was a showman. Those who know, I have to talk about this man because he is a legend.
Bay Street, baby. Bay Street.
You see what you might know Smitty. Smitty the Mighty Blazer, to me, him and Hollywood Breeze, I would hope that we do a show just on them two brothers. That's who met me. They both embraced me. Breeze wanted me to join his organization, but I was situated already, making a few dollars, and I'm like, hey, man, I just got in town. Because quiet as it's kept, Petey Green is my father's brother.
Wow.
And that's why I came to Washington, D.C. to meet, to learn. Yeah, Petey Green. My name is Clayton Green LaBeouf.
Okay.
Wow.
And I came to Washington, D.C. to find out my family background.
Wow.
My legal name is Clayton LaBeouf, Clayton Green, but my father was sent to D.C. as a young child. He was adopted by Mr. And Mrs. Eugene LaBeouf. That name stuck with me. And I didn't really take a DJ name. I was very quiet. I did a Greg Diggs thing. Spin the music. Spin the music. That was the New York style. But he told me, he said, man, you're bad, but you got to do a little showmanship here. That's what he told me after our audition. I like what you're doing, but this ain't New York. This ain't New York. Go ahead and pump it up a little bit, man. Give the crowd a little bit of shout outs and things like that. And that's where I got started. There's Club Sagittarius, Rich Underground, Ed Murphy's Supper Club. Matter of fact, Club Sagittarius was Larry Brown's spot, the cat on the Washington football team.
Wow.
It was called Larry Brown at first.
Larry Brown's, and then it turned to Club Sagittarius. And I became the mainstay. Greg had asked us to list, and I put a couple of asterisks because Greg is tight and organized. So I think I try to be organized. I put a couple of asterisks by the mainstays. My main stage club was the French Underground, and I became the house DJ for the Mark IV. That was before Tommy Hall. Before Tommy Hall came in, and what I was doing there was quite interesting because again I had a GLI 3800 mixer there. And that crossfader came in, it was no longer knobs for me, and I opened up, and we can talk more about that as we go along.
Okay. All right, Clay,
thank
you.
That's my
DJ Mandrill.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mandrill.
Let me see how I got started. I think the first club I played in actually was in '77 in Baltimore. It's a club called the Children's Place. A lesbian couple owned the club. And they bought this warehouse and they funkied it up. It had real high ceilings. They put a nice lighting system in. They had a decent sound system. And They were open up only about a month, and I did a house party in Baltimore. And by Monday, my phone was ringing off the hook about the house party I did. I didn't even have equipment. At this house party, I had 2 component systems, and I was lifting up the needle and cueing each component system with the same record to remix the record. On 2 different systems. So every time I dropped the needle down, I had to turn another system down and pick the needle up on another whole system. But whatever I did at that party, it got around town, and about I think it was middle of the next week, one of these girls called me and said, I heard you did this house party, that you rocked this house party. We need a DJ at our club. So I took my record collection and went down there and started playing it every other week. I was rotating Friday. It was just Fridays and Saturdays. I was rotating every other weekend with a DJ in Baltimore named Eugene Richardson. Mm-hmm. And I did that for almost 2 years. And then I was at the time, a friend took me to the clubhouse. And a good friend who took me to the clubhouse knew everybody on the staff there because he had been part of the club that was preceded the clubhouse. Before the clubhouse, that group of people had a club called Third World, and he knew them. So when my first night at the clubhouse, 5 minutes in, I was in the DJ booth getting introduced to everybody, and it was a super club. They had a Richard Long sound system in the clubhouse. It was one of the few in the country. It was a state-of-the-art sound system, and honestly, to this day, very few clubs matched the sound that the clubhouse had. It was just heavy bottom, because the clubhouse was gay-owned, but it had a straight party on Fridays.
Yep.
And a mixed party on Saturdays. Yep. And believe it or not, long before they gave dance music the label of house or disco, funk was the thing. Right. And the clubhouse was primarily a funk club.
Yes, it was.
It got into other things later, but he was the main DJ there after Bryce left. Bryce was actually the main Saturday night DJ, and that's the place I took when he left. I auditioned for the clubhouse, and they sent me a letter asking me to do a guest spot. And then when I did the guest spot, sometime in '78, they kind of went, okay, we got a slot. You want to fill this slot? So I became a resident. I was a resident there, so they closed in '90. So I was there for 12 of the 15 years they were there. And I did other clubs at the same time. I would do guest spots all over town and stuff, because I played at Tiffany's, I played at Foxtrot. I used to do at LA Cafe. I think I did a Thanksgiving party there one night, and they liked what I did, but all their slots were full. So the guy asked me what I consider doing a lunchtime disco. I looked at him like he was crazy, but nobody was doing it, and that was like 5 days a week. Sure, I'll play 5 days a week. That's for their cash. So I started doing the lunchtime disco at LA Cafe back in the day. It was from 11 to 3, and I kid you not, there was easy 300 people every time from the very first one. It was 300. In fact, when I left that, it was still popular. I needed another job. I was going into some other field and doing some other things. And so I left it, but it was still a party happening. I did it for a little over a year. They had a lunchtime disco there. But my first gig was the clubhouse, the Children's Place in Baltimore. And then that just kind of stair-stepped me to other night spots. People would hear my reputation or hear what I did and like it, and then I would get asked to go. And what's interesting about my career, I have never been hired when I went for an audition. Not one time. Every club that wanted me to play called me and asked me to come play. So I was probably in my 30s before I realized the benefit of that, the blessing of that. But I can think of several clubs I auditioned for that the person who ended up getting the job, I trained. Particularly in the gay community, there's just more than one of them. But I was never really bitter about it. I was just sort of like puzzled about it. I knew that race plays a factor and stuff like that. But clubhouse was the longest residency I held. Okay. And that was the first thing. And what's funny is I stumbled into it because I wasn't trying to be a DJ. I've been a music collector since I could walk. My father was an audiophile, so he built sound system in our house. We had a club-like sound system in our living room. He built the woofers that were on either end of his stereo system. We're talking about in the '60s when Fisher was the way to go. And he had all kinds of stereo equipment, and our living room sounded like a nightclub all the time. And I got used to that kind of sound. And he was eclectic. He had Sergio Mendes, he had Frank Sinatra, he had Curtis Mayfield, he had Motown, Stax, he had everything, Beatles. So I grew up listening to all that. So I've always understood what people are hearing and all those kinds of things. It's about what it stimulates in your mind, not necessarily what sound causes it.
Right. So you had
it's
all
what
kinds of
stimulates that thing in your mind, and all kinds of music does that for lots of different people.
All right. You had all
Well,
kinds
I
of
was just a
influences.
music collector. I just fell into DJ.
All right. Okay. You had all kinds of influences, I can see. And one thing, the clubhouse had like one of the largest dance floors. I mean, no question. It had like, I mean, you wanted to
before Tracks, we had the largest dance floor in the city, and then we opened up the other side, which could hold another 500 people easy.
Yes, sir. Yep. All right, DJ Cool.
Sir.
All right. What's up, sir?
It's been a long time, DJ Cool. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm excellent. I would say that my career was sparked by Maniac Mcleod.
Yep.
I used to go watch him when he was at the Room, probably mid '70s. I don't know, '77. He introduced me.
We lost your mic.
And he had a mobile DJ company called the Sound Service. That was 1978. I worked with the Sound Service from '78 to around '79. I was at a party that I was doing for the Sound Service around '79. A cat named Keith Jefferson, that used to be a DJ up at the Paragon 2. He said, "Cool, you good enough to be playing in clubs, man. You need to come up to the Paragon and get this job because I'm about to leave." I went up there and I got the job. So I worked at the Paragon from '79. It closed in '82. Maniac, again, here he comes again. "Cool, you need to come down to the Room because I think you're the only DJ that can handle this club." And this was 1982. Went down to the Room, started working at the Room. I did the Room from '82 to '86. I worked there 6 nights a week. My God, man, Tuesday through Thursday and Sunday I worked from 9 to 2. Fridays and Saturdays I worked from 9 to 6. And the Room was always a one DJ operation, which was I don't know, a lot of these cats nowadays, they used to have like, opener and a closer and whatnot, but we really didn't do stuff like that back then. If you worked at a club, you worked there that whole night.
All night.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right.
1996, when the Room closed, I got a call. "Cool, we want you to come to the Classic." Greg Diggs was at the Classic, I think, right before I got there. And I came and seen Greg play before, and everybody was all suited, booted, and this and that. So, excuse me, different crowd for me. So when I came to the Classic, I like to say I brought the hood to the Classic.
You did, yes, you did.
I brought the hood to the Classic. And that's when they started this thing called "Come As You Are" night. So all the hustlers and whatnot was coming out there. That's when everybody was out, the Versace shirts and the feel-out sweatsuits and the Gucci tennis shoes and
the Drew outfit.
All the boys was up there. You know what I mean? And so after the Classics, man, I got called to come to Triples, East Side, the Ibex. Goddamn, I don't know how many other clubs after that. And I was making records. I started making records in 1986. That guy right there with all that green on, DJ Gary Drew was my first tour DJ. I don't even know how in the hell that happened. I guess I'll let him tell that story. But Music Ain't Loud Enough came out in 1986.
My jam.
Thank God, man, I had a record that was on the Billboard charts every year from '86 all the way up to '96, which is, let me clear my throat, this is the 25-year anniversary. Let me clear my throat.
Yes, indeed.
Go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But Gary, in the early days when we was on the Chitlin Circuit.
Chitlin Circuit, baby, the Chitlin Circuit. And when I say Chitlin Circuit, I mean the Chitlin Circuit.
The real Chitlins.
Yes.
Chitlin McNuggets. They were serving Chitlin McNuggets out there.
So shout out to DJ Bird. He made that happen. Shout out to everybody that was in the group with us, Kenny, Palo, Chewy, and the legendary DJ Mello T. We're going to get into that. That's the first DJ Mello T. So yeah, man, so that's pretty much, my career. Platinum records, gold records, there you go. And thank God to all the DJs on here that have been supporting my career.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, before we go any further, I just want to say that Cool, I gotta congratulate you, man, for all you've done for this city. You know,
Yes, sir.
you put
Yeah.
DC on the
Yes,
map worldwide.
sure.
I mean, with
Worldwide.
gold, platinum records, and we just gotta uplift you, man, and thank you for
Yes.
all the things that you've done.
Most definitely.
Amen. Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, and
Absolutely.
cool. I always remember you coming through Berg, and I thought you was a teenager, and you told me, you know, you remember you used to come through every Friday.
Yes, indeed. That was me and my guy RG.
That's right.
We were going back and forth to Culpeper, Virginia. They had a spot down there called Jimmy's Lounge.
Right.
And we were going back and forth there, and this is crazy. RG had an old Galaxy 500, and I still don't know how the hell we was pulling this off. He had 4 of them Sherwin Vega speakers that y'all had. What was that? The one with the 15 and the horns and the 6 positive tweeters. He was putting 4 of those in a Galaxy 500. I had 2 BSR turntables and a Gemini mixer, and we had a realistic power. It wasn't even a power amp. It was a realistic receiver, but I thought it had a car motor in it or something. That thing was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's enough about me for right now.
I hear you. Can we get Gary L. Drew?
Yeah.
Woo wee. So back in the day, there were these DJs would go around and it wouldn't charge any money. They would just set up, find a corner, set up, find a park, set up, go to Haynes Point, wherever, and set up and start playing music. So I grew up on Northwest Washington, D.C. And one day I was up in the area by 14th and U. And there was this DJ playing. His name was Easy Rider. And he was playing, and he would play up there every Sunday. And what it really sparked the interest in my mind, the way he was able to manipulate the crowd by what he played on the turntables. So I became like, I stuck to him like glue. Like every time he played, I went there, I helped him set up, and I just sat there and watched him. I watched him. And so I watched him to the point where I then got on the turntables and mimicked what he was doing. And so once I did that, I then began to create my own style that was similar to his, but creating and carving out my own lane. And so one day he told me, you know, if you're going to do this, because I used to borrow his records, you know, if you're serious about this, you're going to do this, you need to buy your own records.
Stop messing with mine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, stop messing with mine. Right. So I went down, he said, you know, and there's a place you can go down on F Street. So I went down on F Street and there was this place called Douglas Stereo.
Yes.
Yeah. And I stood outside the window of Douglas Stereo. And, you know, for those of you that remember, there was this glass that you could actually see into the store. And the DJ booth was right there in front of the store. And their gimmick was they would play records and you hear the record and you like it, and you go inside and buy it. Well, I used to stand outside that window for hours at a time, every Saturday, and hours and hours and hours. And, you know, back then I was very, very shy. So I must have stood outside of that store probably, I want to say, a year. Every Saturday I would go there and it's just this guy, same guy playing. This guy had on, and this guy had wore the same thing every time. He had on these Puma tennis shoes, tight jeans, and a muscle shirt.
I know who this is.
This guy, in my mind, he was a superhero. I finally went inside, never said anything to him. So I went from standing outside Saturday after Saturday to now I went inside and I stood in front of the DJ booth on the inside of the store. watch this guy's, same thing. And I stayed in there hours at a time. And it got to the point where the manager was like, look, if you're going to be in here, you got to buy a record. So I would just buy a record, not even just buying a record, just so that I could stay inside the store. So finally, this guy, I started a conversation with this guy. And by now, I'm sure all of you all know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Ron Spider-Man Hunt.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Legend.
And this guy for me was like a superhero for me.
Yeah.
I followed this guy like, I can't even tell you all how I followed this guy. Like, no matter where he went, what he did, I was right there behind him. So as time progressed, he heard about this club that was changing its name. And him and I walked into this club together at the same time. And spoke to the management at the time. And cocky Ron, as cocky as Ron, you know, Ron is cocky. He basically told the manager, like, I'm gonna take over your club and I'm gonna run this club. Well, that was chapter 3. And he started DJing there first. And he would, it was one of those things where Ron would play and then at the end of the night, when most of the crowd was either gone or, you know, it slowed down, he would let me get on the turntables, or he would let me open up. So I would start early before the crowd even gets there. So that became, you know, I started early in the night, then I started a little bit closer to when the crowd was there, and then it got to the point where Ron was busy, or he was doing this or doing that, and he was like, just go ahead and keep playing. And so I got my confidence up. And I'm saying, you know, oh, I got the crowd, you know, I'm rocking the crowd now. So that was really the birth of me in the clubs, was watching Ron at chapter 3. And then that was the same thing at, you know, he played all over the place. He played at Tiffany's and Buck Stops here and just all over the place. And so I would follow him to all these clubs. And so just like Mandrill said, I was so fortunate and lucky that I never, ever had to audition for a club. Never, not once did I audition for a club. I was always invited to play and DJ at a club. And that grew and grew and grew. And then one day, I got a call about coming and playing on the radio. And, you know, my nerves were like, you know, it's one thing to play in front of a crowd that you can see, but it's a whole different ball of wax to play on a radio, which you see absolutely nobody. Yeah. And this guy is really responsible for taking my career to the next level. And that's Greg Diggs. Greg was the first person that got me on radio, started my radio career, which actually boosted my career just to the sky. Stayed on KYS for multiple years. I left KYS and then I went to PGC and I played on there for multiple years. Now, this is all going simultaneously when I am, like DJ Cool said, I'm DJ Cool's DJ. And being DJ's Cool DJ, that helped me understand the life of being on the road. That was my first introduction to actually traveling with an artist. And that opened up a whole nother part of my career. And since then, I've played at just about every city in the United States. I've been to China, I've been to Hong Kong, I've been to Europe, I've been to London, Paris, Africa, South Africa, Ghana. Like, I have been all over the world, and that was attributed to the time that I spent on the chicken circuit with DJ Cool. So, you know, I want to give a shout out to him and Greg and as well as Ron. they were like the start. They were the mentors that helped me get to where I am today. Now, there are others that indirectly are very responsible for my career. That guy right there, Maniac Mcleod, I watched that guy and I learned from him. This guy could take a record and he was just funky. I just know, he just no matter what he played, he cranked. And so he taught me how to crank.
Yes.
If I have to say anything about Maniac, is he taught me how to crank. And then another person who was, like you said earlier, that's no longer with us anymore, and that's Sam Burns. Just watching that guy and watch how he was able to move the crowd with. Sam didn't say much on the mic, but the records that he played, it was just like magic, you know. And so those are the people I would attribute to me being who I am today.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. DJ Super Regulator, Super Funk Regulator, CeeLo.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, brother.
Got you loud and clear, bro.
All right, so here we go. I've been into music. My mother, she sang opera with Leontine Price. She went to school with Debbie Allen. She went to school with Debbie Allen and Felicia Rashad and all of that. She was in the same classes. So I had an opera background without even wanting to have an opera background. My dad had all the records. He would collect records, and what he would do, he wasn't a DJ at all. He would collect records, and all of his records were in alphabetical order. So I'm not talking about regular alphabetical order. I'm talking about AA, AB, AC. I mean, it was meticulous. So when I was a young kid, he used to always say, Carlos, which is my government name, Carlos, go over there and play my Rick James album. Back then it was Super Freak, I guess. But he said, but you know what song to play for me, right? And it was track 5 on side A, and that was Ghetto Life on that album. So that was my first needle dropping. You understand what I'm saying? Then it went to seeing Run DMC and for the first time in my life, and they were doing rock box, and they said, our DJ's better than all these bands. Good. And turned around and looked at Jam Master Jay, and he started scratching a little bit. He's doing his cut. So I was like, okay, that's what I want to do for my life right there, because he was important, but he wasn't on the front of the stage. He was behind, but he was very important to the whole thing. So I started doing pause mixtapes. This was like 4th grade. I used to battle this guy around the corner from me. And we used to do 60-minute tapes. Now, pause mixing was very meticulous. You know, we used to tape off the radio and then get a double cassette player and make our own mixes on 60-minute tapes, so 30 minutes aside. So I beat him one day because I came to school with a 120-minute tape done, both sides. That took a while, but I came with a 120-minute Maxell. I'll never forget it. So I went from that to my uncle. He used to work for this moving and storage company out in Rockville, Maryland. And if you didn't come and if you didn't pay for your stuff, they would auction the stuff off. So my uncle used to get all this stereo equipment. This is my father's brother. They both just loved music. He had speakers in his bathroom. He had speakers in his kitchen. He had speakers all around the house. I mean, everywhere. So, I mean, running off of one amp located somewhere in the house. So he's running speaker wire it's crazy, right? So from that, he used to give me his stuff. He had overload of stuff. He would buy all the equipment. So I would come home. I was 8 years old. I had like 8 amps. I'm talking about serious amps. I'm talking about because the people were not coming to get their stuff. So I had like Marantz and Techniques and all of these amps, and I didn't have turntables. So what I would do is I was doing my pause mixtapes. I was like 8, 9 years old, and eventually he got 2 turntables. And my cousin, who was from Queens, moved to Maryland and brought a Gemini mixer. Y'all remember those Gemini mixers
Oh,
with,
yeah.
the
Yes,
wood,
no question.
with the wood around it?
Wood grain.
No question.
Okay, it was silver. So we hooked up both the turntables, and one of them didn't have pitch control, and one of them did. And I made it happen. My cousin wanted to be a DJ, but he didn't have the passion. He was doing other things. So I'm down in the basement the entire time. That's how I really got my mix game up. Now remember, I didn't have 2 turntables with pitch control. I had one, then one didn't. And then eventually my uncle gave me a Kenwood turntable. I can't remember the model number, and a Pioneer turntable, but both of them had pitch control. And then I got a Radio Shack mic mixer. It cost $29. I saved up $29 and got me a Radio Shack mic mixer. It didn't have a crossfader. It was only up and down, and it wasn't made for turntable. It only had one RCA input on the back of it.
Work it.
So I'm DJing like, for real, at a young age, I'm DJing like, so my uncle had a party, a Halloween party. I was 10 years old, in his house. So in the basement, they had a DJ down there, you know what I'm saying? So they let me come down there, because they knew I loved the DJ. And I watched this DJ, and Gary L. Drew knows this person. I mean, I'm sure he's very influential to him, God rest his soul, and that's DJ Boogie. And DJ Boogie did my uncle's party, and I watched him for 4 hours or whatever. I mean, I was up until 3 in the morning, and I just knew what I wanted to do with my life. So I just kept on going. So when I was about 14 or 15, I moved uptown, DC. And I started going different places. The Ibex was one, but I not going to the club, but they had like a DJ competition in there. And at that time, I knew how to transform. That's a certain kind of scratch you could do. I knew how to transform, so I got into the DJ competition. And my whole set, all I was doing was transforming the whole time. I did nothing else. I'm just transforming. But Super Slice was one of the judges back then. I don't know if you know who Super Slice is. He's very legendary in the reggae world. He was one of the judges. And he was in the hip hop at that time, not reggae at all. So, I did that. And then my cousin started working at Chicago's as a bouncer. So he said, hey, catch the train down here in DuPont Circle. That's the club, Clayton, I think you're talking about. They named the Chicago's after the fact. Okay. And that's what Sam Burns was playing there and Paul Howard was playing. Sam actually gave it to Paul Howard, and he went somewhere else. So when I came in, Paul Howard has really just started DJing. And it was all hip hop in this room. And in the other room was all reggae. So I'm sitting there, I've seen so many DJs, Boogie, who was one of my influences, so many DJs, but Paul Howard, he showed me how to rock a crowd. Like he showed me he went up in tempo. And like he go from 80 to 100 BPMs and work back down to 80 without breaking the stride. You understand what I'm saying? No scratching. No scratching at all, straight blending. So, I just kept going every Sunday I'm going. And Paul Howard, for whatever reason, stopped DJing there. And they brought in this DJ who had just won the World Supremacy, which is a DJ competition. His name was DJ Supreme. So my cousin hooked it up with the promoter, Steve Solomon, and Alice Goodwin. And Alice Goodwin he runs the whole Atlanta scene right now, but he started DC. Remember what was the skating ring uptown? Citadel? Y'all remember that?
The skating ring?
Citadel.
That
sounds about right.
Yeah, but anyway, it was Alex and Abe and Steve Solomon. They were the promoters. So they said, CeeLo, come on. I had been there every week or whatever, and my cousin had pulled with Steve. So they let me try out audition before Supreme came on. So every record I'm pulling up, Supreme is like, nah, I'm gonna play that. Nah, I'm gonna play that. No, I'm gonna play that. Don't play that. No, don't play that. Don't play that. So I had to go around him, you know what I'm saying? And I rocked for like 20 minutes. And when I rocked that 20 minutes, it's history after that. I went from doing Chicago's to Kilimanjaro's. You know, my main residency after that was the opera. I was like 16 years old. I wasn't even supposed to be in the club, okay? I started doing the opera with James Funk. James Funk was opening, well, James Funk was opening up. No, I was opening up for James Funk, and we were playing all hip hop, and it was a Howard crowd. One thing about DC is it's two different crowds for, you know, it's not the same crowd for every party. So, you know, when we was DJing for the Howard crowd, we could play all hip hop and reggae and this, that, and the third. But when I went to, let's say, the classics or something, I had to switch it up. That's a whole different crowd because DJ Cool brought all them hoodlums in there. So by the time I got there, I had to play for both.
Okay.
So that's one thing I would want to say is, you know, DC has had DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. There are different crowds in different clubs. So when I used to go to see Maniac at the Ibex, because that's where I first met Maniac, at the Ibex.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, I'm talking about, he was rocking, killing it, you know what I'm saying? And he always, his thing was he could talk on that mic and rock them turntables.
So you missed him at the room. You missed him at the room.
Oh no, I wasn't even off the porch yet. I wasn't even supposed to be in the club.
Yeah.
I wasn't even supposed to be in the club at all.
Yeah,
Right
too
now,
young for the room.
So, but even the clubs I was playing in, I wasn't even supposed to be there. But what happened was, again, they heard me in Chicago. Steve Solomon was like, "Oh yeah, you rolling with us." Then I did this real big party at the Opera. It was Crisscross. It was a rap group back then. Crisscross, WKYS was hosting, and I opened up for Kid Capri. So I'm rocking, and Kid Capri come up. I rocked about for 2 hours, and Kid Capri came up. He was like, "Hey man, what's your name, bro?" I said, CeeLo. He said, "Man," he said, "I like you, man. You ain't try to play all the hits on me, man. You got the crowd rocking for me, and you ain't even played no hits." I said, "No, I can't do that." I said, "I play by the clock anyway." You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't have played the hits if you were here or not. I'm used to playing all night long, so you got to pace yourself. You know what I'm saying? So that was my first big, I would say my first big gig was the Opera with Kid Capri. And I got that party through this guy named Hokey. He was a promoter at Howard. So it was a Howard crowd.
Okay.
It was a Howard crowd. It wasn't a DC crowd. It was a Howard crowd.
Okay.
Different.
Very much different.
Well, thank you, CeeLo. I need to go on to who I'm missing? Aaron and Drum, and then we're gonna kind of speed it up a little bit. You know, this is just our first question.
Put a time limit on it.
See, that's why that's why I was short. I did my little 3 minutes.
No, but it's good though. It's all good.
Same here. Same nobody else off, bro. What's up, man?
It's all good. It's all good.
No, it's not all good, bro. No, I was finished though. That's pretty much it though. Right.
No, these are fantastic. I learned quite a bit because what he's talking about is a young man that's not supposed to be somewhere, that's rocking. And that's very important. I appreciate, and I've learned quite a bit about that because I have a soft heart for the young people, and we'll get to that.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, CeeLo. Brother Aaron.
Hey guys, my story is probably going to be the oddest one. I was on the radio before I ever did a club in my life. I got hired. I was an intern working in production at WKYS while I was in college at Howard. Sometime around Christmas, the program director, her name was Barbara Prieto. The music director was named Greg Diggs, and you know, the luminary Donnie Simpson. They wanted to do the top 25 rap songs of the year. And I have no idea why they like, hey, Aaron, you're into rap. You're the one, Greg had records all over the place. Oh, you got 3 copies of Big Daddy Kane? KYS doesn't even play it. So I was really stealing all the rap records out of there because they weren't getting played. They're going to get thrown out. So for some odd reason around Christmas, they're like, we want to do the top 25 rap songs of the year. I was like, okay, how can I help? It's like, well, do the list And we're gonna get you, one of the owner's daughter. Her name was Karma Finley.
Karma Finley, yeah.
And her friend, who was a receptionist. We're going to do the top 25 rap songs of the year. The next day, this is my first look at politics and radio too. The next day, it turned into me, the owner's daughter, and Donnie Simpson's son. So they kind of moved the other girl over to the side. So we did the top 25 rap songs of the year. I wrote out a list of what I thought were the great, the ones of the year. And then a week later, Barbara says, "Do you DJ?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Great. You want to do a hip hop mix?" I'm like, "Sure." She'd never heard a tape of me. It's like, "Sure, go ahead, no problem." So that's how I got on the radio. Literally, that's it. She'd never heard a tape of me. Greg had never heard a tape of me or nothing. They just knew I was in love with the music. Now, here's the next story. That's the radio piece. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for believing in me. The club piece is this. So I'm on the radio. I'm pretty much playing, an hour rap. It's kind of buzzing around the city. Hey, they're playing real rap records, and this guy's scratching, like, for lack of a better word, the New York motif of DJing was what I was using. Then this guy named Ron DeBerry, club promoter, he's like, "Iron, I need you to DJ this club. These two DJs are showing up late and is acting all crazy." I'm like, "I've never done a club." Ron walks off like, "Oh, you'll get it." Hey. So then I get on the phone and I call a young DJ who's 17 years old. I'm like, "Yo, CeeLo, I don't know how to do no clubs. I just know how to DJ on the radio. I'm following, the Red Alert, Pete Rock pattern of just playing hit records and, doing my jigga stuff in between. Real fly stuff." I was DJing for lack of a better word, I was DJing for other DJs. I was never DJing for a crowd. So we went to the Ritz. I'm like, "We'll just split the money." And I was like, "You have to start," because I don't DJ clubs, and I'm not a go-out person. Before music, so honestly, I learned how to do club DJing from a guy 4 years younger than me. I had no clue at all, and that's DJ CeeLo, so thank you for that. Prior to that, guys, you guys have these amazing stories about music. Music didn't hit me till 1984. I'm in middle school, getting ready to go to high school. One song did it. It was Roxanne, Roxanne. And I bought it for my cousin as a gag gift for Christmas, because he would come to my house and I'd be like, "Hey, breakdance, you know how to do that?" So I'm gravitationally challenged, nigga. I'm not getting on no floor. I'm a fat guy. So I'm not gonna do all that. He's like, "Man, you and grandma, you and Hattie, you and your mom Hattie, I don't ever have no records over there. There was no physical music in my house, just books. We were readers. We were huge readers. My house is full of books." So as a gag gift, I got him Roxanne for Christmas. But I liked it so much, I came and borrowed it back from him the day after Christmas. And then I started buying records every day from Douglas Records downtown. I would go after school, I would go on Saturday, and I just fell in love with buying hip hop. In terms of club DJing, I learned it literally all of it from CeeLo. I brought some of my own stuff to it, but it was really building off the building blocks of CeeLo. And then after the building blocks of CeeLo, it was the building blocks, because Kid Capri kind of messed up the entire ability to, no disrespect, but to DJ. He made the thing about impact. So the whole impact is, if they're not screaming the moment the record comes on, you're not that good of a DJ. Now, prior to that, that wasn't the truth. That wasn't.
It wasn't the truth after that either. Iron. Sorry.
Yeah.
But admittedly, he did change how things had to be not ordered, but at least moving it faster along. But and I built my entire club repertoire in the Ritz nightclub. Ritz nightclub is, in my opinion, where everyone, like Gary O'Drew said, is everyone had to if you didn't go through the Ritz at a particular time during clubbing, then you didn't go to the gym. The Ritz was
it was a rite of passage. It was a rite of passage.
The Ritz was the gym. And I went on to do a whole lot of other clubs and stuff like that. But again, guys, my story is totally different. I didn't club as a human being until I worked at a club. I didn't go. I went to the club like 3 times. I remember going to see DJ Cool at the East Side because he was the only person scratching records. He's the only. I went in there. He's fucking playing. Rising to the Top by Dougie Fresh and Don't Believe the Hype, Public Enemy, 2 copies. I wasn't used to hearing. In my mind, I'm the only person in DC with 2 copies of records. In my mind, and here's the thing: I only went twice because I couldn't afford it. My favorite part of the East Side was hanging out the East Side was the parking lot. Right. The parking lot had all the chicks, and I just hang out in the parking lot and listen to cool reverberation through the building.
Damn.
So I was never really a club guy. The being given the club gig literally put me in the club. But guys, if you can, there's an icon at the bottom that says reactions. I want you guys to put up a huge heart for the super funk regulator DJ CeeLo, like I'm about to do right there. I love you.
Love you more, brother.
Without you showing me the club, I learned how to. I took care of a family off the club from a 17-year-old. So I love you and thank you.
I love you too, brother.
And thank you, Aaron.
So, hey, Grove, can
yes.
I say something about Aaron and CeeLo?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Both of them started like the mix show at Kiss, and they did the hip hop thing, you know, and they were hip hop heads. When I was music director, assistant program director.
What year was that, Greg?
That was
91.
91, 92, yeah. So I knew about hip hop, Kool Moe Dee, Kool D, those kind of things. But Aaron and CeeLo, they were hip hop heads. They lived and breathed it. So they don't, I'm saying this now because they don't know this, but I learned from them when I got the gig at BET, and I had to program all of the music videos for the network, and I was responsible for programming Rap City. So what I learned from Aaron and CeeLo, I was able to carry that with me over to BET to help me to be able to program Rap City and also respect the Rap City crew because they had so much input on that show. But I'm just saying, if it wasn't for Aaron and CeeLo, I wouldn't have the level of expertise when I went over there to program it. So I just want to personally, publicly thank you both right now to let you know how much
thank you for hiring us, man.
Thank
you for hiring for me, man.
You didn't bring them over to BET, Greg?
Let me add on to what Greg did, y'all. Is you guys know one of the hard things that a lot of people are still not able to do is understanding and embracing the changing of the guard. And I think Greg did it with the most graceful thing I'd ever seen. He was like, you know what? These guys are tapped into a younger audience that we need. He didn't fight us on it. And as we and later on in life, you meet people who are fighting you.
Yeah.
Like how many of you guys it took a minute for y'all to buy CDJs? I fought it.
I never bought one.
You know what I'm saying? Like in Serato, first person with a Serato I've ever seen in my life was CeeLo. I remember when he brought it, I'm like, what is that? And he said, this guy DJ B put me on the Serato. I'm like, what the heck is a Serato? So again, I'm really Greg Diggs. I just want to salute you as well for embracing young people and in understanding the beauty and the nuances of change and how powerful change is and how change is how you define people's character.
Right, and that's gonna be one of our questions later on to technology. Let's finish out this one with Eardrum.
Hey, did you call me?
I just called you, sir.
Yes, sir. I could hardly hear you. Hey, I want to shout out everybody on this panel because
Eardrum, we hear you.
You all know that in one way or another, I touched everybody on this panel.
Yes, you did.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
I either I helped promote your record, I gave you records, I sold you records, and sometimes, believe it or not, there were a few DJs. I get a call on Saturday morning saying, man, I got a party tonight and I ain't got the record. Do you have any copies over there at the record pool? And yeah, they come on over and I give them a copy or a couple of copies and they be on their way. Yes, and that's how we roll. But again, I also want to shout out, before I go any further, I'm going to make it quick. I want to shout out the two people on this panel. All of you all are influential in what I do, but the two people on this panel that I stole the most from. Yeah, I used to steal from all the DJs on this panel. I take my pad and pencil sometimes when I go hear y'all play, and I be writing shit down. I say, hey, I ain't never heard this thing before, but I'm feeling this. And I be writing the records down and all that kind of stuff, and then I go get the records some kind of way. But Greg Diggs who to this day I still think is the best DJ I've ever heard in my life, and I just want to give you props, and I also want to give Mandrill props because man, Mandrill, you didn't know it, but man, I'd be in the clubhouse way back in the back. I'd get me a 6-pack of Heineken. And have my pad and twist them up, and I stay there for 5 hours or whatever, and I'm writing down damn near everything you played, and then I come and say hi to you at the end of the night.
Wow.
And then also let's shout out 2 more people, because without them, I wouldn't even be here today and doing what I do. And one of them is the late great Tommy Hall. He rests in peace. Because a lot of people don't know, but I was in Tommy Hall's record pool, which is a group of DJs, and I took over Tommy's Hall pool from him. Because Tommy had some issues back in the day, and I'm not going to get into that right now, but I took over from Tommy Hall, and that's how I started up my record pool.
I remember
Wow.
And
I remember that too.
and then there's also a lady promoter out there that I have to give a shout out to, and her name is Shorty. Some of y'all around here know who Shorty is. If you've ever seen her, you know exactly who I'm talking about because she's about she come to my waist. And that's why they call her Shorty. Yeah. But she put me on the map, and she put me on the map out at Club LeBaron. I think it was about 1978, 79, something like that. That was when I first started DJing. And she got me booked some kind of way to the Players Ball. And y'all know what the Players Ball is. She got me booked to be the DJ for the Players Ball, but I was supposed to open up and close for Trouble Funk.
Oh, man.
And that was my first official DJ gig. I didn't know how to mix one way or another, but I always had a bad record collection, and that's how I got into DJing. I used to have all the records in the world, but a funny story, I grew up on pop music, and I grew up on some like CeeLo said, the classics, Frank Sinatra and all that old kind of stuff. I always had those, and I always had enough hip hop and R&B to get me over. And some of the DJs used to say, "Hey man, can we borrow your record collection? Because I got a party." I said, "No, you can't borrow my records, but I can bring my records with me, and I will let you use my records to do your party." And I did that for about 4 or 5 years. Then I found, wait a minute. And I found out, I said, "Hey, they paying this guy to do this." Hey, borrow my
records.
Something is wrong with this picture.
I'm the library. I'm the Martin Luther King library.
Right. And then I went, that's when I got involved with Shorty, and she started booking me at all her things we used to call cabarets. I don't know if they know what cabaret, the young folks.
Oh, yeah.
Cabaret.
No, they still doing them.
Right. And she started booking me for her cabarets all around town and stuff like that. And that's how I got into DJing. And from DJing, I did a couple of stints in the clubs. I went to the Fox Trap back in the day, and I went out to the Oak Tree for a minute, and then
Oak Tree, wow.
Right, and then I went out to Trade Winds for a minute. Okay,
wow.
I made most of my hay doing what we call mobile gigs, and that means you go take your music equipment and you go set up a sound system and you play at these particular parties, and that's how I made most of my money. And I graduated from there. Went on to open up the record pool. Again, like I said, I was in Tommy's record pool, and I graduated and opened up my record pool, which was a graduation from Tommy because Tommy couldn't continue with his record pool for whatever reasons. Okay, and that's basically about it with me. And I just wanted to put that out there and give props to all the DJs up here on the panel. And some more that I didn't mention, but also I will tell this one story and we'll move on. DJ Cool. Now he used to be in our record pool, but DJ Cool didn't tell you all that I was sitting down with DJ Cool when he signed his first major record label. well, not major record label, but it was a small record label. I was sitting in that room with DJ Cool when he signed with Deep DeBerry.
Oh, wow.
and I was one of the first people to start passing out and giving copies of DJ Cool's record to the DJs around Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Right.
Well, Eardrum,
Beautiful.
Eardrum, I still remember that logo, man.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance
That's
to get it
okay,
for you.
but that logo was something, man. You know, with the
Back in the day,
dog with the headphones.
the dog with the
I had a
headphones,
dog
right?
with the headphones on the side of my van.
The
Yeah.
white van.
Yep, the van. I remember the
The
van.
craziest thing I ever did in my life.
Legendary. It's legendary.
It worked.
Okay.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Greg Diggs.
Yes. What do you want to talk about?
Whatever, brother.
You mean how I got started? Is that what you want me to say?
Yeah, go ahead, man. I know. Go ahead.
Well, I started basically in high school. You know, like everybody else, I had the records everywhere I would go. And so every time somebody would have a party, they would ask me to bring my records and I would play. And I would remember this social club called the Mind Corruptors. And we used to give cabarets in high school and everybody would come. So after that, one day, my brother, Arnold, I was 17 in high school. And he snuck me into this club called Barnett's on Division Avenue. So he snuck me into Barnett's, and I had never heard a DJ mix before. So when I got in the club, I was already excited because that's the first time I've ever been inside of a club. But then I heard the DJ was playing What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. And then he mixed it into Al Green's Let's Stay Together. And that was the first time I'd ever heard a mix. And that just had such a lasting impression on me. And it just blew me away. And that made me want to be a DJ. And then from there, I just kept saving my money up, trying to get DJ equipment. And I heard somebody talk about having one of those realistic mic mixers.
Yeah.
I bought one of those with the turn and started mixing. And then got my first gig at Raphael's. That was the first time I ever got paid as a DJ. But my first residency was at the Chapter 2. And I went from Chapter 2 to Tiffany's. And from Tiffany's, I went to the Classics. And from the Classics, I did this little thing at the Ritz. And that was basically it, other than the radio gigs on my Traffic Jam on KISS and the Mega Mix on KISS.
Legendary.
But that's basically how I got started.
Okay. All right. You guys kind of answered like the second question already, pretty much. I guess what I want to ask you guys now, if you could name a few DJs who are not on this panel that you would like to acknowledge.
How long we got?
Not too long.
Right.
Not too long.
Yeah,
Not too long.
There's so many.
Just give me the top four. Give me the top four. Everybody, give me 4 DJs.
Oh man, that's
Hollywood
definitely
Breeze.
Okay.
Hollywood
Yes.
Breeze.
Yeah, definitely Hollywood Breeze.
I would say DJ Flex.
Flex, yeah.
Now stuck.
Archie Lucas.
Yeah.
He used to do the Monday Night at Tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to play before that. He played at I can't think. He played at 2 other clubs. I can't remember the names. It was so long ago. We talking early 80s.
Right.
DC Fats, yes. The legend. The legend.
I go back to the early days. I mentioned Smitty the Mighty Blazer, who's my number one cat that I think is a legend in this town. But there's Mr. High. You have a West Party Johnson.
All right.
This is 70 again. This is early on. Yeah, you got West Party Johnson. You got Harry Boomer.
All Super Disco Jocks.
I met at Club Sagittarius. He showed me the board. When I went to Club Sagittarius, we would mix records after groups like Father's Children was playing. At that time that I got here, there was live clubs and MCs and comedians playing, and the DJ was not the mainstay. So you would have Catfish Mayfield. You would have Choice 4. You would have the Dynamic Superiors. You would have what's my brother's name here? what's the cat's name with the group? Osiris. There were Blue Magic. These clubs had live music, and the DJ would come on as a little side note. So Harry Boomer, who's up now in Cleveland, my first time at Club Sat Cherry, which is on DuPont Circle, I believe the Scientologists. You know the building right there on right there up there at DuPont Circle.
20th and R, I think. 20th and R.
These were mansions with 3 floors that was rocking. There was a club called Club Sagittarius that I was the main DJ at, and I hired people like DJ Hollywood, who DJ Hollywood came in, and this cat was mixing, and I hired DJ Hollywood. This cat knew how to mix like nobody I had ever seen. I don't know who you know I'm talking about.
Kenny Hart.
Kenny Hart.
It was at Hollywood for a while too.
Hollywood Hart. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me sidetrack for a moment because we got a moderator here that you don't know. This is a cat that built Grover Massenburg, built some of the music systems. So let's finish the whole thing out. Grover Massenburg built some, and Greg could talk about that. He built some of the systems in there. I have to go back to the clubhouse. When I walked into the clubhouse and heard that sound system, woo! I'm on the dance floor immediately. I had never heard the system like I had in the clubhouse. I have to say that.
Can I
as
say
far as the room, come on, bro. Come on, CeeLo.
Let me say something real quick about the clubhouse. Now,
go ahead, CeeLo.
Mandrill said, what year you say that closed down for you? It closed down?
It was there from 75 to 90.
Then some Jamaicans bought it.
Is that right?
Yes.
In 93. They bought it.
The sound system was gone now.
Well, they brought in a superior sound system. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Somebody must have knew because the sound system in the clubhouse, when I was there, it was all reggae at that time. So you can imagine what it's gonna be. You know, like they didn't like they had both rooms. The sound system was crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that about the clubhouse.
The sound system in the clubhouse, because Mandrill, you remember I played on one side and you played on the other for a couple of Friday nights. And, you know, I love that sound system that was in the clubhouse. But when I played on that sound system at Tracks,
oh, man.
Oh, God.
Man.
Woo.
That's the
now, Grover and I did house parties. Back to the moderator to tell you, I met him and his brother Calvin, and these brothers were drawing like I had never seen. And I was doing some gigs, and I said, Grover, I said, if you do my flyers, I can pay you a couple dollars. He said, well, me and my brother Calvin is strong. We ended up doing house parties where Grover and Calvin, I would do the dance floor. Grover would set up visuals on the next floor in house parties. He was actually my first friend that I made in Washington, D.C. I'm talking about the moderator. He knew Tommy Hall. I was in New York at the time in Yonkers. They had asked me to come back to the Mark IV, but I was helping my father out with a club that he had, and he had the Mickey Mouse Fisher Price system in his club. I said, you can't do Fisher Price, Dad. You got to step it up. He said, well, if you stick around. I called David Sim from the Mark IV, thanked him for the offer because they wanted me back. I said, I'm up in Yonkers, man. I can't come back. And that's when Tommy Hall went. Tommy Hall went in. And I first met Tommy Hall at the Pitts Motor Lounge. I did some guest spots at Pitts Motor Lounge. I played the room. I actually played the room 1-2 times, couldn't handle it. Mm-hmm. But the name of the group was called the Super Disco Jocks, the division of Sighttown Ocean. Davis and Smitty had a corporation called Sight, Sound, and Motion. They wanted to be filmmakers. The division was the Super Disco Jocks, a division of Sight, Sound, Motion. So these two cats, they took over the restaurants and started bringing in the Shure amplifiers. You remember the Shure amplifiers? Mm-hmm. We'd come in there, set up in a restaurant, and try to get the working crowd to stick around the DC area rather than go home after work. Right. So the super disco jocks became a whole group of folks like Cisco. There was Mr. T Funk. These are kind of the names that Grover's asking for, and it's a wonderful time.
But also, you had Breeze's group.
Yes.
What was it? Mute. What'd you say?
Music Unlimited Street Jocks.
Music Unlimited Street Jocks.
Yes, Music
right.
Unlimited Street Jocks.
He
came to the French Underground to hear me play, right. And he said, "Look, brother, I can pay you." It wasn't nothing like he was trying to get me away from the super disco jocks. He was just, that's the way it goes. Miles Davis said, when Miles Davis took Michael Henderson from Stevie Wonder, they said, "Miles, why you take Stevie Wonder's bass player?" He said, "That's what you're supposed to do when you on top."
Right. Well, anyway, I'm talking about Breeze. Breeze had what was it, Maniac? Music
Unlimited Street Jocks.
Right. Now,
Breeze is a special cat.
Right.
Breeze had a television show.
Right.
Breeze is a very special guy in this city.
Right. Now, okay. Now, some of those jocks were like $1 Million Mike, Lady Passion.
Yeah.
Chocolate Chip, Dollar Bill.
Chocolate Chip.
Who was it? Dollar Bill, I think.
Dollar Bill, yep, he had Dollar Bill.
Right.
He had another one named Eminem.
Right.
And he had a hot chocolate and chocolate chip.
Right. And then you had DC Fats group.
Zodiac Super Jocks.
Right.
Zodiac Super Jocks, yeah.
Zodiac Super Jocks.
I thought you was coming in on the Super Disco Jocks. Were you ever a member? Because I remember you coming in with Smitty and everything, but can you say you were actually like a member of Super Disco Jocks?
Well, let's say I was a non-active member. I tried to get into Super Disco Jocks by way of Mr. High. Mr. High auditioned me at the Quonset and told me I wasn't never gonna be nothing because I wasn't.
Oh wow! Well, we got those stories too.
And Mr. High, he's my biggest influence.
Those always no story.
But that's a positive story.
What type of Marlon used to play at the Quonset?
Yeah, most people don't even remember Marlon. I keep trying to get people to remember Marlon Smith. Marlon Smith was a busboy at the Mark IV. Me and Tommy trained him as a DJ. He became the DJ after Tommy left the Mark IV, and then he went on to the what's the name? He went on to Triples. And then he became a manager at the Quonset. He played at the Quonset, became a manager at the Quonset. He became a manager at Triples. He played at this other club. He played at L'Enfant Plaza, and
L'Enfant Plaza.
Yeah, and
wow.
So. Well, let me say this.
He was the manager.
Let me say this.
He was a manager.
Let me say this if I can. Let me say this if I can. What happens with the nation's capital? That's what it's called. It's called the nation's capital, so it affects the entire nation. There's a song by KRS-One. He says, "DJs act like they don't know." I take that song and I think about DJ Kool, because DJ Kool is the bridge, as James Brown always said, "Take it to the bridge." DJ Kool is very instrumental in that bridge where the DJ became the star.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
That's the bridge. You see what I'm saying that we're talking about, right?
And as well as James Funk. As well as James Funk. But DJ Kool had a very special place with that.
So Grover.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting question you have about top DJs that are not on this panel. But you know what? In this area, there were DJs that played in downtown clubs.
Right.
There were DJs that played out in the county.
That's right.
Yeah. And you had DJs that played out in the county that were doing cabarets that would never come in the city to do the city.
Right. Thank you.
Well, just like CeeLo said. Remember? Yeah, CeeLo said that.
Yeah, and they had it was a whole thing. So the cabaret scene out there was, your name was on a poster. You had Pumpin' Archie.
Yep.
And Easy.
Yep.
And I mean, you had some legendary names.
Storm and Norman.
With the boom.
Storm and Norman, yes.
Okay. You're talking about a mobile sound system that it didn't sound like the clubhouse, but it was close. Okay.
He probably passed in the clubhouse right now.
Right. Well, you know what? There was a time.
He probably is. But what my point is that, you had DJs downtown. You had, Quicksilver, who was every club down there, putting in work. You had Trini,
I mean,
Trinity,
there was
yeah.
a ton of DJs that
A whole
were
lot.
playing and holding down all of these downtown spots.
Yep.
And you know, to me, the Ritz was definitely from '90. The Ritz was open March of '90 and closed in 2002.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there were so many DJs that came through that club, and that was kind of like a rite of passage, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Most definitely. In the
Yeah, I was
90s.
there for 5 years.
Mandrill, thank you, Mandrill. Mandrill was in there playing reggae, and I mean, hard reggae.
Killing it. This is what I was
playing all night reggae all night long.
I
Let me
love
say
it.
this. That's when I was at the Ritz. Mandrill was rocking the reggae in the reggae room, murdering it.
Murdering it, man. So let me just say this. The Ritz, I mean, all of us know about the Ritz, but it had 5 floors, 5 DJs. When you came in that club and you played, it was kind of a fight every night, all right?
It was.
So if you wasn't on your game, you look up and the crowd would leave your room and you
go
like,
to
where'd
another
they go?
room.
They upstairs with Sam killing house. Or they come down with Mandrill and they stuck in the reggae room for 2 hours, okay?
Yeah.
But it was, you know, it was just a dip. So when we talk about DJs, they're all, you know, they're like, there's top 5 here, there's top 5 there, and you know, it's hard to get the ball.
I want to say something about some DJs. Let me say something about some DJs, man. In my top 5, I'm CeeLo. So look, DJ Trini was everywhere.
He's a monster.
We pretty much were everywhere together.
Right.
DJ Trini, Quicksilver, the QIC, everywhere. DJ Paul Howard, he was everywhere from 91 till about 94, and he became a teacher. So he left, went back to New York.
Right.
So that's the only reason he wasn't there. Reggae DJs, listen, Nelmo and Clovis.
Clovis, wow.
Nelmo and Clovis at the Kilimanjaro. Granny Fox, Sprang, International.
Who was at the Crossroads?
Oh, the Crossroads was later, but I mean, we got G Nights.
Right.
We got Super Slice. I mean, listen, man. I mean, and then if you want to talk about, let's say, we talk about reggae DJs on the like a cabaret type situation. You had Emperor International, John D, Tika Spence. You feel me? It's too many DJs.
So many.
Well, let me say something. This should have been divided by eras because
definitely
you have the DJs that were playing between the 60s and the 80s, and then you have another whole new set that came in from the 90s to present.
When hip hop came in.
Right.
Yeah. But wait a minute. Let me finish. When you are considering legendary DJs, you have to go by eras because you got legendary DJs in each era that were totally different from the DJs in the previous era.
True
And I say that,
Absolutely.
and I say that because most of the DJs from the 60s and the 70s that came into play, they were using vinyl. They had to use their hands and be creative with their hands and do what they had to do. Now the DJs that came out in the 90s, they started using most of the electronic equipment to help them do that.
No, that was 2000.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. I respect you. I respect you, Maniac. That's not true.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
I was rocking vinyl until 2002 when the Serato came out.
Yes, I got you. Some people still rocking vinyl now that were back in the 70s and 80s. Still rocking vinyl.
Nah, but we was being creative with that vinyl for real.
Okay, well that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about the basics because the basics is vinyl.
Yes.
That's the basics.
That's what we
Some
come
DJs
from.
never use some DJs are mostly using CDs and Seratos and
that was 2000.
But now
2000.
Not
That was 99.
Okay.
That was 99.
Yeah, that was 2000. Not on this panel.
Well, you know what this leads to? You know what this leads to? See, this is all beautiful because we can get into beefs, we can get into personalities. Grover has a statement on the page that he started called DC Funk and Harmony. Nobody is bigger than the music.
Right.
I'm just making my point. No matter what the DJ is, is that you're playing music off the blood, sweat, and tears of somebody else, unless you're a DJ cool, unless you're cutting your own music. And when you're talking about DJs have a passion for the music. So it's a double-edged sword for me. If I'm talking about DJs at any point on a panel or anything, I got to talk about the music. We mentioned the DJs.
No DJ without the music.
Right.
Well, we got that. That's called a given. But take, for example, this. This is what's beautiful about what's coming for our young children. You say to a young child, who's the king of shout-outs? They might say, well, what are you talking about? I would say James Brown. I say that James Brown invented shout-outs. Now, we can debate that. This is the beautiful thing about the culture of DJing. James Brown has mentioned John Coltrane in his records. He has mentioned B.B. King in his records. I see comedians make fun of James Brown and act like James Brown ain't talking about them. These are comedians. It's all on record for anybody that wants to check it. But James Brown would shout out different artists before hip hop. Did shout before hip hop DJs, before any DJ mentioned shout outs. James Brown would shout out Wes Montgomery in his records. So what we get ready to get into, the beautiful thing about DJ life for the future, we getting ready to go heavy into the culture of DJing. As we talk about the beautiful talent of the DJs, that's the element that we're dealing with now. What's coming is the depth of DJ archiving, DJ culture as it pertains to the music. One of the rehearsals we had, I asked the question, what is the record that would rock the club in the 70s that could not be played on the radio? And we thought about it. It was called Shit Goddamn, Get Off Your Ass and Jam. Yeah. Now that song, when you put that we talking about club legends, we talking about club DJs. That was the go-to song at that time that DJs would go to say it's time to rev this crowd up to the utmost. You can always rev a crowd up, but we all know as DJs what's the utmost. To euphoria. That's the word, euphoria. We would put on, so you never heard that song on the radio. It's a legendary song. It will go down in club DJ history.
Let me say something real quick. Let me say something real quick. Right. In the 90s when we was coming in, you know, me and Aaron, we broke records on the radio. We broke these hip hop records, right? But we were playing records that we were playing we was coming from the clubs. We got our feeling from the club and came to the radio. So we were breaking all of these records on the radio for the 2 hours that we were on Saturday night. We took those records and we used our imagination, right, real heavy, to get these records across, because you got to remember, DC was straight R&B, straight R&B, straight R&B. That's what DC was about. You understand what I'm saying? I remember growing up and they telling me, hey, CeeLo, turn that New York shit off, man. We don't want to hear that. They wanted to hear some go-go or they wanted to hear some slow sound, so Melvin Landry.
And
break it down.
You didn't crank that go-go, boy.
Listen. Let me say this about the go-go. I wasn't a go-go. I never went to the go-go. My mother wouldn't let me go to no go-go. So the only thing I could use was my imagination when I got the tapes. So when I finally got to playing go-go, I had to play go-go because I'm playing all night long.
And you did a superb job, sir.
I'm playing house music. I'm playing reggae. I'm playing hip-hop. I'm playing R&B. I'm playing everything. Right. Aaron was playing everything. Trini was playing
the art of the DJ.
Okay. So Maniac.
No, real quick. Let me just. I want to piggyback.
Go ahead.
Sam. Okay, so my reign in DC was basically from '86, actually '85 when I first started playing parties and clubs to '90. I left PGC in '90 to come to New York to work at Tommy Boy, but July 28th, 1987, I had to convince a radio station to let me mix live on the air. And Albie D, you know, was a major part of that. But once, you know, he put me on, but then I had to deliver. So we're talking 5 hours live on vinyl before the internet, before digital DJing in a quiet storm town. And after my first 2 months, I started July, Jelly Bean Benitez, he opened with me on July 28th, 87. And after that, I was able to, you know, rock and build up my confidence. Like you're saying, playing on the air for the first time in a market where it never really had a DJ mix show that was like a residency, like every Saturday, 7 to midnight, 5 hours live. It was intimidating for me at first. That's why, you know, Jelly Bean started off. By the time I got on, I'll never forget, my fingertips were sweating onto the record. I was so nervous because I was like, because Albie was teasing me. He said 1.4 million people are listening. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And before that,
I was one of them.
Yep. So I was kind of shook, but then I got into it. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do me, because I was a record pool chart editor guy. So like I said, I played all the formats. I would start 88 beats per minute, play reggae, going to hip hop. From hip hop, I go into R&B. From R&B, I go into R&B classics. For R&B classics, I would go into house. From house, I would go to techno and Euro disco. And that was the 5 hour set. And so all the record labels.
I used to tape them all.
And this is the crazy thing. After being there in that environment at that station, you know, being the type of person of color that I was, there was just me, Michelle Wright, Gene DC Phillips, and Russ Allen. We was like the four. And it was like a weird kind of awkward. I was like, you know what? I want to work for KISS. I want to go to KISS. I want to go to, you know, HUR. I want to go to 100. So I saw Donnie at an event, and I talked to him. I said, Donnie, you know, I kind of want to come over there. And he's like, you know, a mix show ain't never going to work in DC. I'm like, well, I'm already playing on PGC. He's like, oh, that station's a flash in the pan. It ain't going to last. It's number 22 in the market. So I was like, okay, get that. So Bobby Bennett, HUR, him, Angela Scriblin, went rap to Bobby. He said the same thing. At 7 o'clock, DC slows down. It's a quiet storm town. A mix show ain't never going to work on the radio prime time. Then I went to, you know.
Melvin Lindsay.
Yep. So, and then
let me ask you a question. Go ahead. Can Greg, this is where I would like to know from Greg, everything you're talking about is radio. Can you do all that in a club?
Yes.
Can you mix?
No, I came from the club. I came from the club.
Yeah, see,
I came from the club.
But all I'm saying is,
listen, hold up, listen.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
The Dome was Washingtonian Club of the Year. I even clipped a little article in 1986 when I started that club, and everybody was in there. That's how I got to the radio, from the clubs.
Well, that's my question. It's like the art of DJing.
I had to take that club vibe and put it on the radio for all the people.
That's what I'm asking.
For the young people that couldn't go out. And like I said, and what I love about CeeLo is he took the entire hip hop generation and he broke that market and flipped DC all the way around. Like we would have to play multi-format, but him and Iron, yeah, I was gonna add that.
He opened up with opera. He opened up with opera.
Iron was in
opera.
Iron, tell him you were in the record pool with me. Me, you, and Tom Grace sit around and kick it with Sam Burns. So that was the 80s, and like to me, like what CeeLo was able to do with DC to maintain that. You know how hard it is to maintain that and put DC on the map. I mean, with Club 95, we were able to put Cool on, because I told Albie, we got to get, in order to beat KISS, we got to get the hood and we got to get the gay community. That's why we did our first birthday bash at Trax. 3,000 people.
Right.
We started at 7 o'clock. We went to 4 in the morning. 30,000 people came through there. So we were set. And then Club 95 brought all the local DJs, including Eardrums, Record Pool DJs, OMAP DJs. They all got a half an hour set from 9 to 9:30. On PGC. That helped bring the whole DC audience to PGC. So we went from number 22 in the market with a 1.4 share to number 1, and it maintained that for 15 years. And
try to do all that in one night.
Well,
with a crowd that is ready. See, what people forget, some crowds are ready for a wide variety of music. Some crowds are not ready. Some crowds are into what they call a certain genre. Some crowds.
Oh, you missed the point. That's what the Dome was. The Dome was everybody.
I gotta interject there.
The Dome was everybody.
Please. Please.
We're talking about mostly the 80s, but there was a time when this town wasn't as conservative as it wants to be. It was much more loose. It was much more relatable to the scene of New York. I'm originally from Jersey, and I hung in New York a whole lot when I was a much younger person. And the vibe here in the 70s was party. Right. And there was a time in this town when everything that came out on Solar Records was played in black straight clubs, black gay clubs, white straight clubs, white gay club. So there was a time when that was available and when it was happening. And that was also a time when the clubs used to dictate what radio used to play in this town. All the DJs used to all come to the nightclubs to hear what they were playing. That's right. So they can take it back that next week and put it on the radio.
Program
that was when Seemingly Better Productions record pool was up and kicking.
Right.
I'm saying the difference. The difference between trying to fit all this in one night, trying to do all of this to mix. That's why I'd like for Greg to chime in right now if he's still there. The art of DJing in clubs means you might get yourself in a position where you have to do all of this genre and mix it well for different tastes in one evening, not a radio crowd where you got.
Then you haven't been to the Dome, Clayton. That's what I did.
That's what we was doing.
I'm telling you.
No. I'm not saying nobody did or didn't. I'm not saying nobody did or didn't. I'm saying that's the art of DJing. I'm not trying to say nobody did or didn't. I'm saying I'm staying to the art of DJing that there are certain crowds that are not into a genre. That's all I'm saying. That's the art of DJing for clubs. Right. I'm sticking to the theme.
But check it out.
Hey, in the famous words of DJ Cool, hold up, wait a minute.
Really? Thank you, Mandrill. Maniac.
No, but go ahead.
You all are talking about the difference between a radio DJ and a club DJ. And that's what Clayton is mostly talking about.
Thank you.
But on the radio, I was a club DJ. That's what I'm saying. On the radio, and even with CeeLo and Iron, we took the club and put it on the radio.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Yes, that's right.
So that's what we did.
Let me finish.
That's right. That's right.
What I'm trying to say is that what Clayton is trying to say to most of us, and it's real simple. Club DJ and radio is totally two different animals. Now, most of the DJs, there's some that, but very rare. It's more easier for a DJ to go on the radio and play music than it is for a DJ on the radio to go into a club and play music.
Absolutely.
You can't do the same thing on the radio that you do in the club, and vice versa. You can't do the same thing on the club that you do on the radio.
Can I say something, gentlemen?
There's a slight difference.
Gentlemen, can I say something?
Go ahead, Ira.
Come on, please.
This is what I'd like to say. All of you are correct. But here's where Charles comes into play. That's most important is that the radio DJ had to adapt because of one single thing. It was called the live broadcast. The live broadcast made you have to take your club element and bring it to the radio because you're actually in a club.
Yep.
So whatever type of already format you've already had because you're a radio guy, it did not apply because you're in a club. Now also there's something ugly we need to talk about, and I'm part of the ugly. One of the issues that happened and kind of, in my humble opinion, messed up the club is the same thing that made it dope. It's the live broadcast. This is why. The live broadcast brought down the club experience because there were other people polluting how we played. I can only tell my story, you can tell your own. I'll never forget, I'm in a meeting with my program director, and he's telling me what he doesn't want on his radio station. He says, I don't give two craps about that 1,000 people in that club. I care about the 216,000 who are listening to on the radio. So that whole warm-up stuff you do between 10 and midnight, throw that out. Whatever you play from midnight to 2, play it twice. Whatever you did from midnight to 2, do it at 10 to midnight, then do it again from that. And that ruined the club experience.
Right. Well, DJ Aaron, let me ask a question here. how did the Billboard reporting play into just what you're talking about?
The Billboard reporting change. I think some of it changed based on the fact that DJs that were in the club, and now hold on. Here's another dumb thing. Now the radio guys are running the clubs because of the live broadcast, right? So now that's ruining the ability to quote unquote break records. There was a point between
and be creative,
and be creative. So there's a point between 91 and 96 where a DJ was still quote unquote breaking a record. I can name records I know I played for months, and I was the only one playing it. And CeeLo had played records only he played, and it worked for him. So that whole thing happened. But I think what the difference between the club and the radio DJ, it kind of morphed into one thing. Not anymore. I don't believe anymore.
Right.
But at one point during the mid 90s into all the way maybe into 2010, they were so morphed into the same thing. So and Mike Scott will attest to it too. Mm-hmm. So you go to a club and guess what you hear? All the same stuff you hear on the radio.
Right.
Well, you see, let me interject.
Mandrill already said that.
Mandrill said that.
Let me say something here, because I know when I started the Trapper Jam at KISS, they allowed me to do what I wanted to do initially. I could play what I wanted to do, but then gradually I had to start playing the playlist. Mm-hmm. And so when it got to the point where I had to play the hits. And so when Barbara Prieto became program director, she decided to move the Trapper Jam, which was on at 5 o'clock every Friday. And she moved to Fridays and Saturdays, and we did the Mega Mix. So that's when I was able to play house music, and I could play whatever I wanted, because it was a later time, but it wasn't in prime time.
Prime time, 5 o'clock.
So it really made a difference.
Well, for me, from 7 to midnight, I was the playlist. I could play whatever I wanted to play. It was crazy.
Because you started it. Because you started it. They knew that. Listen, your club, what you was doing in the club, Charles. Mm-hmm. They said, nah, you got to do that same thing on the radio. You feel me?
Right.
You brought the flavor. I used to tape you. For real, I used to tape your show.
You kept the whole thing going, CeeLo. That props to you. Kept it going for 10 years straight.
No longer than that.
I'm just saying, unbeatable. Like not even competition. Like I left.
But look, let me say this about that. I'm sorry, Aaron. Let me say this about that. Now, when I started on the radio, I went to PGC eventually. I started on KY. When I went to PGC, I was on overnight, 12 to midnight.
Right.
Okay. I was on there for a month, 30 days. And Albie D came to me and said, hey, CeeLo. It was Albie D and Dr. Dave was the program director.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he said, CeeLo, we're going to try something new. We're going to start mixing every day at 5 o'clock. They was doing this nowhere else in the country. You understand what I'm saying? Then they said 3 months later, once that book came out, hey, CeeLo, we're going to do the same thing at 12 o'clock. But we want you to play old school. Mm-hmm. But they gave me a list to play. You could only play these records. You could only play these records at 5. You could only play these records at 12. Well, I bucked that system. Mm-hmm. Anybody that worked with me in radio, they knew that. I was in the club 7 nights a week, so I'm not going to let the list dictate anything to me.
Yep.
You feel me?
True story.
Props, bro. You know why I'm saying props? Because, see, the subject, again, it's all relevant. But look what's happening. You know what is not being brought up in we talking about when you're talking about legends of club DJs, radio is not in the title. It's relevant, radio is not in the title. What we're missing is that club DJs, the DJ Cools, the brothers that started this stuff out, the Greg Diggs, you are playing in front of people who are dancing, not listening to a radio. And if you have a format where you would come off that format with improvisation based on the way the club that's in there, the people who are dancing. This is the first time this is brought up in this whole conversation. The people who come to clubs to dance. We can talk about DJs all day long, but club DJs playing for Tommy, Sam the Man Birds, anybody who plays it, you are playing for people who come to get on a dance floor. This is the first time it's been brought up in this conversation.
Everybody on this
People
panel
who come to
in the clubs, Clayton. What are you talking about? We all played in the clubs.
listen to what I'm talking about. Listen to what I'm talking about. I'm saying, is this not, hold on. It's all relevant, I said, right? Okay. I'm saying that this is the first time it's being brought up in this conversation, and that's the truth of it. Okay, but it's called a given. It's okay, Clayton. What are you talking? That's what you're asking. What are you talking about? I'm talking about what we're talking about, club DJs. So to ask me, what am I talking about? Nobody has brought, hold on, let me finish my point. It's a given. That's what you're saying. It's a given. Club DJs dance for damn people, Clayton. So what are you? That's what you're asking me. No, what are you talking about?
No,
hold on.
What I'm saying is we're all DJs. What I'm saying is
no. All right, got that. Okay, got that.
Let him talk, Clayton.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm saying that the depth of club DJs as we move into.
Let Charles talk.
Oh, okay. Solid. I'll do that. Go ahead, please. No. I'll yield because what I'm getting ready to get into is that on the street level, dancing. Listen to me good. Dancing is political. Hold on, because see, this is what I'm saying. This is what happens with elders. This is what happens when the elders speak. Dancing in America is one of the most political things you can do. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm not on here to just talk about I'm talking about the art of DJing. Okay. And this is what I'm saying. I've had this problem as I spin.
Okay.
Dancing, black people dancing in this country is one of the most political things you can do. And when you do that, all of a sudden, politics comes into play, and terms like disco get in the mix when it's really all about dance music. When you can dance to Donald Byrd's Flight Time, I played clubs where I can go from Donna Summer's Love to Love You Baby, mix that in with The Hustle, and finally get into James Brown's Superbad, and then go into a slow record by the Isley Brothers. Now what I'm saying is what club DJing is about, which is the title of this topic, of this panel, is club DJing. It's not radio. That's all I'm saying.
Something to say.
That's all I'm saying. And the passion that I'm coming from cannot be denied.
Okay. Let Gary speak, please.
Go ahead, Gary. Go ahead, Gary.
I was
just only going to ask Charles a question. Charles, I know for me, you were the first person I remember actually doing a mix show on the radio. Would you say you hold the title of bringing the mix show to Washington D.C., the first person to do a full mix show, not the first person to mix on radio,
right?
But to actually do a mix show.
Yeah.
From what I remember, you were.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember, like CeeLo said, I remember having my tape ready and pushing and taping them, every time you play. So would you say you hold that title?
And I'm still taping him. And I'm still taping him.
Yeah, I mean it was a challenge because the station, like I said, was at bottom of the barrel, so they wanted to try something new. So when Albie saw me play in the club and how I could rock all the different genres, he was like, "Let's try this on the air." So
y'all changed DC. Y'all changed DC, man.
Yeah, and it was tough because I mean, you know what type of station? I mean, working for PGC, most of the people there were from other cities. So DC was Chocolate City. So like me, Michelle Wright, Gene DC Phillips, rest in peace. They came to us to say, okay, what is going to work in this market? So I said, we got to bring the club to the radio because no one's really doing that. Where Kiss, HUR, and they had the Quiet Storm, they had Donnie Simpson. That was a whole real bourgeois type of vibe, and everyone was like, all buttoned up. But to bring the club to radio, that's what my thing was, and to be in a record pool, because I've always been a music lover. Like I started out in music watching Soul Train, and I was a dancer first. I used to love to dance, so I used to do those pause. I used to do pause mixtapes just to dance in my basement. I was a little shy, nerdy kid. I majored in engineering. So for me, I wasn't even, like Iron said, I wasn't in the clubs. I was just watching Soul Train, going downstairs, learning to dance. Cameo got a funky record out. Let me get the dance for that. And then my love of music changed when I went to Odell's and I heard Wayne Davis play, and he was blending records together.
Legend.
That's a classic.
So he was my teacher. I was up in there. I went on the gay nights, the straight nights, ladies' night, Friday, anytime I could get in, use my brother's night. And that's a Richard Long sound system too. I actually got to play there just before closing. In 89, I played there at the Christmas party. So, I got to play in the system, but the whole thing is, I was a dancer, so I always played for people to dance. And
there we go.
And it wasn't the politics. That's what I'm saying, Clayton. We're on the same page. Just like,
Yes.
But
yes.
the radio thing was like with me, CeeLo, Iron, Mike Sky, everyone that played on radio, we brought the club to the radio, and we played like
all I'm saying is the only thing you didn't do by bringing the club to the radio is the live element of the dancers at the live moment.
Now I see what you're saying. You know what? Now I see what you're saying.
There we go.
I would watch the switchboard light up. I watch the switchboard light, but you're in the room by yourself, and you don't have a crowd. You gotta kind of visualize the crowd.
If you come from that, if you DJ in the club 7 nights a week,
you know what they're
doing. You DJing in the club 7 nights a week, it's no way you're not going in the radio station imagining there's a dance floor
to the clubs. Right, you play what worked in the clubs.
That's what we doing.
No, this is what I'm asking. Okay.
Hold it again. DJ Cool, hold up, wait a minute.
Okay.
Put some SH in it.
The clock, gentlemen.
Okay, hold on, y'all. Understand something. You all are saying the same thing, but Mayfield summed it up into one sentence when he said that the radio the club streets used to dictate what was played on the radio.
Yeah.
All you guys, the radio guys, y'all came in and tried to change that back to let the club still dictate to the radio.
Yes.
Even though it stopped.
Yes.
So y'all brought the club back into radio. And so we all saying the same thing, but you all not seem like not to be.
No, but I see what you're saying. Clayton is saying you DJing like in a vacuum, and you got to go from what you did in the club. But you don't really see the people like when I play in the clubs, I vibe off the people. Like I look around the room, whoever's moving.
There you go.
And that's a big
difference.
If you got that vibe in you, got that vibe in you.
That's right.
If that's what you do.
That's true.
That's what you do.
But let me
ask this question.
From experience.
Let me ask this question then. Is there a format then in a club then? See, certain DJs operate differently. There's a format. What I'm talking about mainly, to be clear, is improvisational, meaning that you might have a song on your second turntable, a song playing. If you're bringing the club, you're playing dance music. But in the club, you may have queued up another song. But there's something about the crowd. Go ahead.
That will make you do something.
Hold on, OG. This is what it is, right?
Go ahead.
Come on, please.
What you're saying is that I understand exactly what you're saying. All right.
You have to
but what I'm trying to say to you, it's called reading a room.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't care what room you in.
Right.
You got to read the room. So we did the same thing on the radio.
Yep.
So if I'm playing in the club 7 nights a week, I'm playing records that the radio station don't even want me to play. I was getting fought every day.
But that's a unique situation, CeeLo. You got a unique situation. Most people can radio, and no matter what you say about radio, you are still being dictated to. You can't play everything you want to play.
Ask about me.
No, for real. He at PGC they let us do whatever it was. They let us.
Okay, but that's a rare situation. It's a rare situation.
They let you do it. Charles, they let you do whatever you want to do. When I got there, they gave me a list.
I had a list.
Well, you were breaking hip hop records, and they had to add them. Like you would play them in based on what's happening in the club.
In the mix show to the point where they had to play them in rotation.
Exactly, that's my point.
But that's a rare situation. Y'all looking at rare situations here.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, man.
That's what this is about.
Rare situation.
No, we get it.
That's what it's about, OG.
That's what a DJ does.
Can I say something?
Maniac, that's what a DJ
Let my man come in.
Okay,
Go ahead, Iron.
Hey guys, first of all, I'm still at work, so I got to get ready to go. But I wanted to say thank you, and I also wanted to shout out another gentleman, and all the people that were OMAP people. OMAP changed my life. OMAP Record Pool changed my life, and I owe that experience to OMAP to Tom Gray. Tom Gray, if I ever got to write a story about me, there's a whole Tom Gray chapter. Let me just tell you something, because there's no Caucasians in this Zoom call. That was one funky white boy. That white boy knew a hip hop record just as good as anybody else, and I've learned a lot from him. Gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity.
Welcome.
Thank you, Aaron.
Blessing, Greg Diggs. You are an ambassador, sir. Continue
Absolutely.
to be an ambassador, brother. You are loved. You are appreciated. Everyone, please take care of themselves. Stay vigilant. All right.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
That's Aaron.
All right. Aaron.
Okay.
How can you have a panel discussion about Black people in America in music without it getting a little heated? This is beautiful. This is beautiful.
It's the passion.
Yeah, it is a passion.
Thank you.
Hey, Grover.
Thank you. Thank you. Be misunderstood.
Okay,
right?
hold on for a minute, everybody.
Grover. Hey, Grover.
Yeah.
I don't want to take over your moderating position.
No, go ahead,
but
brother.
I do want to talk about something that includes DJ Cool, because we talked earlier about how
we wanted to talk about that.
How he made that transition
Right.
from DJ to clubs. But I want to
The
talk
bridge.
about the bridge. But there's some other people in DC that I want to recognize that
Go
did
for
the
it.
same thing. And like I'm talking about these two brothers, Richard Payton and Doug Smith, from 95 North. They came out, and Man Drill too, you know what I'm talking about. They came out with all of these hot club songs for years. And they had like the 25th anniversary. Matter of fact, that was the very last time I saw Sam was at their 25th anniversary. So I just want to just really give a shout out to the 95 South. Also, like people like Crystal Waters and Tracy Hamlin, all of these people.
Thank you.
And Doug Lazy. Doug
Lazy.
Yes.
House. I mean, that was the jam. You know,
Let it roll, get bold.
Yeah.
We talking about bartenders and people at the door when you're talking about clubs. You're talking about bartenders. You're talking about ladies' night. You talking about dress code. It's all relevant.
At this point in time, I want to talk about the people who made the records from DC and give them their props, because there's a whole lot of people in this area that, including DJ Cool. To me, he's like one of my idols.
Well, why don't we let DJ Cool tell us about that?
To make that transition.
Hey, DJ Cool. Well, why don't you tell us about that transition you made? I mean, how did you make that transition from being a DJ to being a major performer?
I always wanted to be a performer or rather an artist, and so for me, initially, I just wanted to use DJing as a stepping stone to becoming an artist. I tell people all the time, if it wasn't for hip hop, I wanted to play keyboards for Parliament because I was a big fan of Bernie Worrell.
Amen.
Who wasn't?
So I probably, let's say once again, if it wasn't for hip hop, I would have probably wound up realistically playing keys. Or maybe once, I don't know, I might have played with Chuck, I might have played with EU, Razors, or even Trouble Funk. And it would probably been Trouble Funk, because they was the closest thing to Parliament, as far as go-go is concerned.
Yeah.
And
you know, there was a time when Parliament...
When you started off as a DJ, how did you, what was the steps that you took to cross over to be the hip-hop superstar that you are? What did it do? How did you do that? I'm just curious. I want to hear that story.
Okay, shout out to Deke DeBerry, may he rest in peace. He came, as we all know, he was an independent record promoter and used to come around to the clubs and, bring people records all the time. So to make a long story short, he came to the room one night and he was like, cool, you ever thought about going into the studio? And I was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So he said, listen, I want you to go in here and I want you to do this mix for this group that I got, or assist with this mix, or with this group that I had a group called 0 Hour. All right, so I'm in there, and he was like, once again, man, what's up with these records you want to make? So I said, well, listen. I said, whenever you're ready, man, I'm ready. So to make a long story even a little bit shorter, I came home, and I guess I was all psyched up or what have you, and I dripped the song. The music ain't loud enough. I dripped every sample. I dripped every lyric. I came into the studio the next day. I had all my stuff. We put it together. Shout out to, what's my boy, Wizard. We recorded that record over there at Oh my God, what's the name of the place that used to be in Eastover?
Oh, you talk about the that had the radio station in it?
Yes. Oh my God. Anyway.
Discount Mart. Discount Mart.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Music ain't loud enough for the Discount Mart. And I guess the rest is kind of history. After that, just like Islam said, I signed with D.C. Bird with Creative Funk Records, and I just started making records.
Man, you changed.
I tell you a cat, Ivan Golf. There's two cats that I like to shout out right now that are instrumental in the DC scene, if we want to call it DC scene, because DC is the nation's capital, so it affects the entire nation. It's not just a local thing.
Right.
Ivan Golf and Ricky Wellman. Now, at one point, they asked for some pictures on Ben's Chili Bowl. They were voting. They were saying who should go up on Ben's Chili Bowl. And I didn't get in my vote, but Ricky Wellman, when we talk about go-go, there's three cats. Mark Carey is lighting up the world, and he's a go-go musician. His name is Mark Carey. He was the jazz music director for one of the greatest women in acting and in music. Her name is Abby Lincoln. Now, this is a brother named Mark Carey that I don't think gets his props. He's a go-go musician, continues to play go-go at the Kennedy Center in D.C., but he's expanded it. When Miles Davis, one of the greatest musicians in the world, can come into Washington, D.C. and grab a go-go drummer named Ricky Wellman and take him all over the world and infuse the go-go sound. This is Miles Davis. How does not a Ricky Wellman receive the props that he deserves? Well, in certain circles, he deserves those props. I mention his name for those who talk go-go, and I would love to see Ricky Wellman's name propped up even more, not because I want it, because his work through Miles Davis, Chuck Brown, in this city deserves to be. It ain't about my opinion, because that's what I mean about being misunderstood. Being misunderstood is very interesting. I don't argue opinion. It's a fact that Ricky Wellman, Sugarfoot, laid down the heavy go-go sound. When you got Miles Davis on Arsenio Hall saying that my drummer from Washington, D.C., this is Miles Davis talking, and propping up Washington, D.C., that I came to D.C. to get somebody, this is a man that needs a shout out,
OG,
in my opinion.
OG, let me ask you a question. OG,
Yeah.
Did he play on We Need Some Money and Buster Loose? Sugarfoot, he played on.
That's a good question. I think he played Sugarfoot. I think he might. Yes. Now, this is interesting, right? What happens is it's called raw. Any genre of music is raw. If you talk to Chuck Brown, he stated, this is not opinion, that Grover Washington Jr.'s Mr. Magic is a foundational song for him and go-go. So when I in the 70s, when I'm at the French Underground and I'm playing a song called Mr. Magic and people are dancing to it, I'll tell young people today, this is a disco record. And I'll put on Mr. Magic and they'll go like, that's disco? And I'm saying, well, it's really dance music, but disco, the label, kind of incorporates it's just like hip hop. Hip hop incorporates so many things, and we have a tendency as a people to take labels, and then it gets into all kinds of beefing and trouble, where what my basic stance is, dance music is dance music. If people dance off Ricky Wellman, if they dance off Van McCoy, it's dance music. So when I say, what's disco? You put on Donald Byrd's Flight Time. This is early stuff. Now, hip-hoppers use Donald Byrd. This is what I love hip-hop. This is why I love hip-hop, because the hip-hop that I know of incorporates jazz, so-called disco, damn it, they incorporate cartoons.
So Clayton,
commercials.
Clayton, I got before you finish. When you finish, I got a story for you. Okay, so I was
no, I'm finished. Go ahead, please interject.
Okay, I was a big fan of Chuck Brown, and I always wanted to meet him. I was playing his records, but I never got a chance to really meet him because he always had like an army around him. But it was a boat trip. I think it was the one of those cruises, the Tom Joyner cruise. He was on there with his daughter, and I finally got she brought me over to him, and I said Chuck, I got a question for you that I've been holding for 20 years. When you did Run Joe, where'd you get that from? Because I got this record from Tower Records that gets the same title with the same beat, the same track, and it was Louis Jordan, the big band DJ from the 40s.
Right. Yeah. That's what made Chuck special.
So Chuck told me,
grab them old joints.
He said that Louis Jordan inspired him to do go-go because he used to work at Union Station shining Louis Jordan, his band shoes. They would come in, he would shine his shoes, and he wanted to be like them. So that was his inspiration. And that record was a tribute to Louis Jordan. So that blew my mind. Because when
I believe that's hip hop. I believe that's hip hop. Some people can debate it. Yeah, thank you.
It is because he did in Malcolm X, Louis Jordan did Beans and Cornbread.
I'll tell you all a song that you all should check out.
Questlove
is Chuck Brown's Eye Candy. Check out Chuck Brown's song called Eye Candy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's one that, if somebody asked me what hip hop is, I would take them to Chuck Brown's Eye Candy, where they sample Jaco Pastorius from Weather Report. Now, this is why I love hip hop. Okay. They take Weather Report's Jaco Pastorius on Chuck Brown's Go-Go record and sample Jaco, who's considered one of the greatest bass players ever in the world, in the jazz world, or in the world. Eye Candy is the name of the song. Check it out.
Right.
Okay. I want to change. I want to change the subject. Let me change the subject for a minute because I think we need to move on with this. I'm just curious with each one of you, if you could name a record that you broke. That you yourself personally.
Well, I could tell you, Lisa Stansfield, Been Around the World. I had a 5-year gig in London. I was on Choice FM in London, and I met Jazz Summers, who owned Dome Records. And he said he was working with Lisa Stansfield. She was in, she did Cold Cut, People Hold On, and then she was in this rock group called Blue Oxygen Cult, but she wanted to do R&B. So Jazz came to me with a 1/2-inch reel-to-reel. He said, I heard you play on the radio in DC. Take this reel-to-reel back to DC and see what you can do with it. Took it back, gave it to Albie, carded it up, played the record. People went nuts. They didn't even know she was white. People went crazy, and then Jerry Clifton put it on 35 stations. And that was crazy. And Soul to Soul, I don't know if I was first to play that in the country, but I know their first single was Jazzy's Groove in London when I was playing there. And then they came with Moving. Right, and he was a DJ. So he gave me that. I everything I got from there, around 80, I left in 90, but everything from 89 to 90 I got from London, I would play, on the station, and it had an impact. And another thing I remember when LL Cool J came down, because, we were the first station to play his records, and Kiss got upset, but Thomas Littell told LL to come down to the radio station. So he drove down in his Jeep and brought his album. And, I was playing I Need a Beat on the radio, but his first single off his first album, full album, I was playing that as well. Samantha Fox, the record that Full Force did, Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up. That's another record I got from London. But like I said, I had free autonomy to just play whatever. And I was playing stuff from the record pool. Imports from dance records, and that's it.
Mandrill, how about you, Mandrill?
Well, you're talking about, no, I was never on the radio. It was not something I was ever interested in doing. Well, for the clubs, I was, the format of the clubhouse was playing new music every week. So the truth is, in 12 years, I broke dozens of records.
You did.
Because every week, people would come into the club sometime with a stock of imports. Regular patrons would have 2 or 3 records with them and say, have y'all heard these? So there was always, every week there was new music. Incorporated to what the format and what we were already playing, there was always new music added. So, I think
it's a collective
records that I broke for that crowd that rushed sold out at 12-inch jazz records the next week. because we had played it twice that night, and maybe Tito played it twice and I played it twice. And then back in the day, even in the 70s, the record pools, seemingly better productions, used to get on this tip where they would try to get all the DJs in every genre and every type of club to concentrate on 1 or 2 records for that week just to see the effects of it. And that's how we got a lot of stuff on radio. When And the Beat Goes On, the Whispers came out, that was a completely new sound for Solar Records. That was a brand new label with a brand new sound, with a brand new sound for a group that was crooners. They were crooners. And then they come out with this funky dance record. And that record blew up when the clubs played it. All the clubs played it the week that came out. We all played it, and then it blew up in the city.
Well, man,
so there were lots of
I think that's a good question, Greg.
But man, was this before? Hold up, man, was this before the Billboard reporting?
No, Billboard reporter was still happening. Tito was the Billboard reporter for the clubhouse while the clubhouse was open. Right. And when the clubhouse closed, when I went to the Ritz after the clubhouse, then I became a Billboard reporter. They kept telling me the reason that they didn't want 2 Billboard reporters at the same club. So they had been trying to get me to be a reporter for a while. Right. And when I went to the Ritz, I was a reporter. Then I was a reporter for 19 years for Billboard reporter.
Anybody else with the same question? Greg. Anybody else with the same question?
I want to hear Gary's because I know a record personally that you wrote.
Right. I know too.
I do too. I want you to tell that story.
Yeah, I want to know what that is too.
Well, I know in the club I was told I had the first copy in the city of Overweight Lover, the remix.
You did. That's where I got it from. You.
Yeah.
Put it this way, I ordered it for the record pool.
Right.
From you playing it. True story.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 different ways of breaking records. There's one for the radio, and then there's one for the people.
No, about the club.
Gary's talking about the clubs right now.
Talking about the clubs, yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying, the clubs. So what I'm saying is, I played a weather report, Sweet Nighter, okay? And people weren't playing that kind of stuff. So I'm saying there's 2 ways of breaking records. Sometimes people think breaking record is only for the radio. I'm saying that when you break a record in the clubs, you break a record for the people.
Clayton, you were talking about
we're talking about the club.
We're only talking about nightclubs.
Right now we're talking about the clubs.
No, listen, I don't know why I'm being misunderstood. I got to make it clear. But no, I got to make it clear. I got to make it clear. No, because I got to make it clear. I got to make it clear.
You're misunderstanding.
No, I got to make it clear. I'm saying that if I interject something and I'm saying there's a question on the table from Greg Diggs. There's a question on the table from Greg Diggs said, what record did you break? So I interject. There's 2 ways of breaking records, whether y'all want to agree or not. There's one on the radio. Hold on.
There's 2 ways of breaking records, but Gary was in the middle of explaining the record that he broke.
Can I finish? I'm asking, may I finish my point?
I'm going to mute everybody's mic in a minute.
Let Gary finish his point.
Let Gary finish his point.
I'll let Gary finish his point. Yes. Okay.
Mr. Moderator, don't you have that mute button handy?
I'm getting ready to use it.
Go ahead, Gary. Go ahead.
I don't even remember my point.
Go ahead, Gary.
What record did you break in the club?
Overweight Lover.
Breaking the club.
Overweight Lover.
So,
radio breaking.
Oh my God, Clayton.
No, it's in the club.
Can I please have the floor,
radio.
Please.
No, I'm saying that Overweight Lover make it to radio stations.
From the club.
No, not at that time. No.
It was him playing in the club.
All right, now I'm asking did Weather Report Sweet Nighter make it on the pop level? I'm talking about breaking record. See, y'all ain't ready. Y'all are not ready. I'm saying that I'm interjecting. Y'all are DJs. Y'all are DJs. Y'all ain't ready. Y'all ain't ready. Y'all ain't ready.
Became hits, not B-sides. Records that became hits.
Okay.
Can I say this?
I'm not trying to interject any problem. The problems are brought on to you. You know why problems are brought on? Because people are not ready to hear. I'm saying something that y'all are not ready to deal with. There's 2 ways of breaking records is what I said. Records are broken with the people. Records can be broken with people. That Heavy D went to pop. Anytime you're working with Michael Jackson, you go to pop status. There are certain records that are broken within the people.
Nobody's disagreeing with you on that, Clayton.
No, they're not disagreeing, but there seems to be a problem. Oh, you're not disagreeing, but there seems to be a problem, though. I tell you that much. When I see the laughter,
you keep interrupting people when they're talking. That's the problem.
Right, thank you.
When I see the laughter and the Clayton, we talking about this. I see that you're not ready for what I'm talking about. When you can break the record.
We just want to hear other people.
No, that's not it. That's not it, because I yield. I can yield. I can yield.
Can we let Gary? Gary, can you finish?
He hasn't finished talking yet, but Gary hasn't finished.
I'm getting ready to mute everybody's mic, but Gary, I'm getting ready to mute everybody's mic, but Gary.
Let me say something, please.
DJs act like they don't know. DJs act like they don't know.
I'm getting ready to mute. I'm going to mute everybody's
DJs
mic.
act like they don't know.
What is he talking about?
Grover.
You can wait till we talk. Guy was, excuse me, let me lower my voice. Number one. Number two, hey, listen, Clayton, God bless you. But Gary was talking, and when that man gave you an opportunity to speak, then you can make that point. But I think last time I checked, Gary L. Drew was talking. So we're not doing that.
Okay. And I yield, DJ.
No, you didn't. You're still talking.
You're still talking.
You're still talking.
Come on, bro.
All right. Okay. Okay.
So let Gary
Okay. Maybe that's the Petey Green. I'll apologize. Maybe that's the Petey Green controversial coming out.
And you're still talking.
But this is not the Petey
And I'm
Green
still
show.
talking.
Hey, Grover.
Yes, sir.
Can you do me a favor?
Wow.
I'm getting ready to mute everybody's mic.
Want to speak to Ray?
I said I apologize, people. Let's roll. Let's go.
Want to speak? How about that?
Good question.
They hear Gary finish, please.
Hold up. Let me say something, everybody. We're gonna deal with the hand raising thing. Can we deal with that?
Yes.
Okay.
We not kids. Our kids.
Well, we got to deal with it.
And let Gary finish.
Go ahead, Gary.
First of all, I think, first of all, we need to be respectful of one another.
That's right.
Thank you.
And Gary Drew was talking, and I want to hear what Gary has to say.
Yes.
Right.
And so, when somebody is talking, please, we got to understand that everybody has to have some time to speak, and we got to be respectful of one another. And so, Gary, would you please finish your whatever? If you can remember what you had to say, can you finish what you had?
And
Overweight level.
Nobody interrupt. No one. Go ahead, Gary.
So the other thing what I remember was being on KISS and playing at midnight. I was playing the overnight show on New Year's Eve. And at 12 o'clock midnight, I played Proper Utensils, Rump Shaker. And the lights on the phone, they lit up. And I guess that was the beginning of that era, if you will.
Most definitely. You killed it. I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
For real.
Okay, Mike Scott, how about you? Any records you broke?
I'm gonna say that, I was at the record store. So I had, not only was I at the record store, but I was ordering a lot of the records that nobody even knew what they were yet, or, they were just coming out. So, and of course I was actually doing a lot of Billboard reporting then, and I was in record pools and getting direct shipments from labels. So I had a ton of records. I would take them to the club, and then I'd meet somebody like Bo Sampson in the club, and he would bring a new MCA artist record out, and I would play it right on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Record hadn't even been out yet. Record hadn't, So it was a ton of records that I broke. I'm going to say that I broke, especially at the Ritz during that time.
Yep.
Because I would try to make it my point. And I started playing on Friday nights. You're talking happy hour, 5 o'clock, and we didn't close until 4. That's a long night. So you got to pace yourself and program that room. So I made it a point to make sure that I played new music.
Yep.
I gave them what they wanted, but I also played new stuff. And I just want to give a shout
to Maniac. All right, so Maniac, you didn't know me back then, but I don't know when I think Barkade's Holy Ghost came out in '77.
That's a Maniac record.
That's a Maniac record.
special right
Okay,
there.
so listen to this. I was in the room. I'm thinking I was probably 11th grade. I'm in the room. And I'm hearing this dude. I'm looking at this dude shaking a bush, cutting the record, and talking over the record. Never seen it before.
Mm.
And he was playing Holy Ghost, and I was like about to lose my mind.
Mm.
And that was a
You're a
little
maniac.
small. I mean, the room looked like a diner. I ain't lying. Am I lying? Okay, so and it had a lighted dance floor, y'all.
Yeah.
I mean, to me that was a discotheque. All right.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the night, he said, "I want to bring out this guy for y'all to check out. It's my man." It was DJ Cool.
Mm.
And DJ Cool came on,
And
and basically, I mean, I'm not gonna say he was Maniac, but he was talking. I mean, I don't know who made up the some of the slangs and some of the wait a minute, the hold up. I don't know who did it first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The chicken or the egg, but Maniac and Cool had that down.
It came.
Everybody else
definitely,
after
most
them,
definitely.
shout to DJ Rico. I mean, because he
Flex.
can do it. He can do Flex. They can do it. You know, I wasn't like. That's why I like this panel because we all kind of different. You know, Mandrill. I watched Mandrill too. I got in that daggone club and watched his hands at the clubhouse. Watched him. He was like a scientist. He put on a record. He put on Rufus and Chaka Khan. And he would make the record, he'd make Rufus or Chaka Khan talk and sing the way he wanted her to sing on the record. So he manipulated the record and made her vocals in the way he wanted her to. It was magnificent.
All vinyl.
All vinyl. And he would put a record on and then go get a sound like a bite from another record and stick it in and take that record off. By the time he finished with one record, he done touched 5 or 6 records. So it was beautiful. So Maniac, that night was a game changer for me, man. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is kind of what I want to do. That was 77, 70, that was probably 78, 79, something like that,
Yeah.
all right? But beautiful thing, man. And you know, as far as breaking records, you know, man, listen, when you're in the record store and you're the buyer at 12-inch and you're buying all these records, you get to see everything.
What record store was
Not
this?
only,
What record store?
12-inch dance record.
Oh, 12-inch dance. Okay.
Yeah, I was there. I got there at 90. So I was there for a good part of their being there. And Mandrill was down there with me. So Mandrill was buying a lot of the house records.
Sam Burns was
Sam
down there.
Burns was in there. That was a store that most DJs had to come through. It was beautiful because everybody came through. The house DJs came through. The hip hop DJs came through. You know, the poster guys came through out here in the county. All the cabaret guys, Baltimore DJs came. So it was a beautiful kind of meeting ground for everybody.
Y'all got a lot of my money.
Yes. Yes.
A whole lot. Rush got a lot of your money.
Rush got a whole lot of my money.
Shout to Rush, man. Shout to Rush. And then it became DJ Hut, you know, with Chris.
Yeah.
And you know, and them guys. So that was a beautiful thing. So, you know, breaking records was great. And we did break records in the clubs.
Right.
They were broken in the clubs. So I think it's,
No, I was just gonna say it's just when you're in a club situation and you're just, you know, in the record pool and you're getting music in the mail, you're getting tons of music. Even as a Billboard reporter, Tito was getting tons of music, and then I've always been connected with a record pool, and I built relationships with every label through the record pool. So at the time I was not working in a record pool, before I was a Billboard reporter, I was on every major's list and most of the minors. I was also at the clubhouse, which you know was a prop. But there was always new music, and every week we always were playing new music. So it's like it's hard to say what. I mean, I know we rocked. We were the first ones to go see the Doctor. I think in the city, Kumo D.
Wow.
That night, the week we got that, I was doing the Friday night parties, which were the straight parties. I played that record 5 times, and I thought it was hilarious. Yeah. And I never played anything twice most of the time, but that was a record that I played a whole bunch of times.
Yep.
So there's obvious things in even hip hop and in the club scene and the disco stuff and funk stuff that we broke because the nightclubs were playing them first.
Right.
And you know what, Mandrill? You know what, Mandrill? You played all those records. You played all those records, and you didn't say a word.
I didn't like.
Yep.
You let the record.
I wanted to let the music speak for me.
Hey, I went with that same program.
Yes, you did, CeeLo. Yes, you did.
Same here.
My major influences as a DJ, because I didn't even talk about that. I talked about always being into music, but I went to New York and I heard T. Scott.
Wow.
T. Scott, I heard him 3 times ever, but he was most influential to me the first time. He played it. It was nothing but a dive bar. That club was nothing in there but hookers and pimps and drag queens. And the dance floor wasn't as big as my kitchen. It was about big size of a small shoe store.
Okay, Mandrill.
Mandrill. Yeah, he had no room in his booth. He had about 4 feet each way. And what he did to music, I had been doing in my head as a kid. When I was a little kid, I had one of those little those turntable, little jukebox kids. I used to, y'all remember that there was a song called Apple Peaches Punkin' by Archie Bell and the Drells.
Okay.
And the beginning of it had this silly little flute sound that I fucking loved. So I kept every time we would play it, before he would start singing, I picked the needle up and over and play that part until I was satisfied with hearing that part. So when I went to New York and heard T. Scott, it was the first time a DJ did to a record what I had been doing with music in my head. He played Eddie Kendrick's Going Up in Smoke, and he crushed it. The room was on fire through the whole song. And he did all these different things to it. And I said, I've heard that record on the radio before. It didn't sound like that when I heard it. And then I looked and saw that he was using 2 copies and then just editing it the way he wanted. And so from that point on, I was just torn about that. Everything needed to be, my idea of going to a club and having a good time, the DJ had to do something different with the record. Because I wasn't in there. I didn't go to the club to get numbers.
Right.
Dick or pussy. I wanted to dance.
Right, for real.
And it took me years to realize that most of the people there ain't really they like music, but they there to get some phone numbers. So it's always important to me to make a song sound different than you can buy it at home.
Okay.
Mandrill, let me tell you this. I mentioned this to you before, you and Gary Drew. For me personally, the 2 of you are the most creative DJs that I've heard. I've heard both of you play, and every single time I've heard you, you've done something to the music that I wasn't expecting. And I remember hearing the first time I heard Mandrill play, you played The Whispers and The Beat Goes On, and you did a mix, and you mixed it with Stephanie Mills' Put Your Body Into It.
Wow.
And it just completely blew me away the way you mixed that song, and that's when I became a Mandrill fan. And Gary L. Drew, every time I would hear you play, man, you would do something with your music that I just wasn't expecting. Yeah. And everybody on this panel we all have our own different styles. Cool and Maniac Mcleod. I knew back in the day when I first got started, I could not be Cool, DJ Cool and Maniac Mcleod. I don't have the personality. You 2 are showmen. You are showmen. Not only are you
They're
showmen,
the characters. That's what they are.
But you also are mixers, and you can mix. And I knew right then and there I could never be Maniac Mcleod. I could never be DJ Cool. I could just be Greg Diggs, and that's what I tried to be. But I just have so much respect for every single person on this panel. You know, I'm just so thankful that you brothers came out here tonight. You know, it really, really means a lot to me because I wanted this evening to be something that we uplifted the DJs in the city. Right. And everybody on this panel and the ones that just have left or whatever have contributed so much to the DC scene. And so I just wanted to thank everyone for being a part of this.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, now.
Thank you, Greg.
Guys, I've got a
And thank
question.
everybody on the panel.
We ain't gone yet.
Everybody on this panel, and I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing.
Okay,
and
now,
one more thing I want to say before we leave.
But Greg, I got a question before we go. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Well, I'm just make this announcement, then we'll go with the question.
Okay.
Because we realize that, you know, there's so much more to the music scene, the DC music scene, that we could possibly cover in this particular panel. Right. And there's so many other clubs and so many other DJs that need to be recognized and uplifted. Grover and I are going to be, in conjunction with Bo Sampson, we're going to be working on a documentary about the DC club scene. And hopefully we'll be able to get the participation of these people on the panel and a lot of the other people who are not on this panel. But I just wanted to make that announcement that that's something that we're working on because we really feel that DC needs to be recognized. People talk about the club scenes, they talk about New York, and they talk about Chicago, but you never really hear people talk about the music scene in DC. And we want to do a documentary that spotlights that. So I just wanted to bring that up. So you can go ahead and mention whatever you were going to talk about.
What I want to talk about is, for everybody, what was your preferred DJ equipment? Turntables?
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Because I never got a chance to talk about what records I broke.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You don't have that much time, sir.
No, go ahead, CeeLo.
We go to the next.
No. Go ahead, CeeLo. Do your thing, man.
I mean, he's right. There's too many records. I just wanted to got left out, but go ahead.
See, give your top 4 favorites.
Do your thing, man.
Go ahead.
4.
A Party Ain't a Party by Queen Pen.
Okay.
You're right.
That was an A-side record. They shot the video for it. The record label was mad that I was playing the B-side.
Yep.
Albie D came to me and said, "CeeLo, stop playing that record. Stop playing that record." I said, "Albie, I can't. It got that Earth, Wind & Fire. It got that Earth, Wind & Fire sample in it. I mean, if you're gonna fire me, go ahead, fire me. We gotta do what we gotta do."
Came out with the remix.
I mean, I'm just keeping it real. I mean, a party ain't a party.
Right.
I'll give you a slow record. John B. They Don't Know.
Okay.
I broke that. I took it. I broke that record. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too many records to name. I mean, all the hip hop.
You did Nonchalant too, didn't you?
I didn't break that. I would say the radio station broke that because they were playing that in rotation.
Right. No, so before she got on the station,
DJs wasn't playing it. I'm gonna keep it real. It started in rotation. Then the DJ started playing at 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I didn't break that. No. Most all Get At Me Dog, DMX.
Okay.
Tribe Called Quest, Award Tour. I mean, it's just too many. It's a lot. It's a lot of records.
Played a lot of the new stuff.
A lot of this was 93 on up. So pretty much anything hip hop, I broke it on the in the club and in the radio. On the radio. Oh, let me not talk about the radio. In the club, I broke it. In the club.
Well, I'm gonna take credit for breaking every record that DJ Cool ever made.
There you go.
Credit for that.
We're gonna have a fight about that.
Except for let me clear my throat.
we gonna have a fight about that one here, Drum.
Because when he said a piece out to CeeLo Flex and Doug Lazy, I almost crashed my car.
I know you did, bro.
I first heard it in rotation. I was driving to the radio station ready for my show, and I heard they said "Peace out to CeeLo Flex," and I'm like, "Oh." Yo, that was crazy, yo. That was one of the craziest experiences ever for me.
DJ Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
What the hell you
Thank you, Cool.
for? You understand me?
Reggae dance, all that.
Hey, I want to mention this.
Go ahead.
Clayton had brought it up.
Grover Washington Cool used that as a sample in the Music Ain't Loud Enough. Grover Washington, Mr. Magic.
Mr. Magic.
There's a bunch of samples in there.
Got cleared.
I got in right before Biz Markie got in trouble.
With the sample clip.
All the hip hop stuff that I use, all the go-go stuff that I use, I never got in trouble for copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Wow. Good stuff.
Yeah. You lucky. You're so lucky, brother.
Is it true? Is it true or false that the first 12-inch record released by a major company was Barabbas?
Come on, it.
Is it true that the first 12-inch record produced, because this is 12-inch records are such a part of the industry, is it true that the first 12-inch record released by a major recording company was Barabbas, the group Barabbas?
I remember that.
So, see, when we talk about, because see, breaking a record,
the name of the song was
Mellow Blow.
It was called, I thought it was It.
Mellow Blow.
Okay.
So now we all can agree. We all can agree that 12 inches are definitely the breakthrough of the club scene. 12-inch records, they were pressed harder. It is my understanding that the first 12-inch major, now that's all across the board, we can all agree on that, about 12-inch records is a club phenomenon. And my research, and I would ask you brothers and those listening to research, because my research says that the first 12-inch record ever released by a major recording company in America was the group Barabbas. So I say that because the breaking of records is what I just tried to do. I apologize for cutting in on anybody, for the audience that's listening, for anybody that I've cut in. I'm very passionate about music, very passionate about my time spent in the Washington, D.C. area, because as I stated earlier, I came to this city to learn about my family. So when we're talking about breaking records, all I was trying to say that sometimes a record broken with the people, it may not reach what they call critical mass. I'll tell you, Brass Construction, there was only a couple of copies that came to the Super DJ headquarters. There was 2 copies that came to the Super Disco Jocks headquarters on Vermont Avenue in Washington, D.C. in the early 70s. I had a copy and someone else. Moving and Change. I don't like to take credit for breaking anything. Some DJs have broken records, but at that particular time, promotional copies were handed out to various DJs, and it was the collective that broke the record. What I'm saying is that certain records don't reach critical mass, like on that Brass Construction album, and there's changing that most DJs and the people know about. There's a song on that album called Love. Whenever I played Love at the Mark IV, the crowd would go off. This is what the real intricate part of DJing is, and all DJs know that. There's certain music that doesn't reach critical mass. It's called the underground. We all know that. Every DJ on this panel knows the underground doesn't reach critical mass. It reaches critical mass with the people, but not radio. Every DJ knows that. So when the question was posed by Greg about breaking, what I was trying to interject is that there's 2 ways of breaking a record. One is for critical mass, and one is for the people in the underground circle. James Brown's All for One and One for All. This, when I played that record off the Reality album, the song Theme from SWAT, which is a television theme song. You do your research. This song is critical to disco. The theme song from SWAT, which is a damn TV show, is a critical song. So that's all. I might have not have interjected it at the proper time. I was trying to say that breaking records is not just only that it reaches a critical mass. We all know that there's an underground mass of people that know of songs like 125th Street Congress by Weather Report. When I played 125th Street Congress by Weather Report in the clubs, the people would dance as if they were in Africa. So Manu Dibango's New Bell. What is Manu Dibango known for? Mama say, mama sa, mama kusa. But play New Bell, which is what I did in the clubs, and that was a song that took people through new euphoria. Not Mama Say, Mama Sa, Makusa. It was New Bell. So that's my thing.
OG, let me say this to you real quick. What you're saying is when you started playing and you was doing all of that, you was laying down the foundation, brother. I'm gonna go ahead and give you credit because I love the music from that era. So when you were saying you playing these particular records in that, you know, you were playing B-sides and album cuts and all that, I'm just meeting you tonight, okay? I never heard you play. I never heard you play before. But just what you're saying, I can identify with because I was doing the same thing.
That's why I said I loved hip hop.
I was playing B-sides. Yep. Like for example, Check the Rhyme was the biggest record at that time when it came out. I was playing it, but I was also playing classic examples of a date rape. That sounds terrible, but the crowd went crazy.
That sounds like that sounds just like, sorry to interrupt, but that sounds just like what any DJ that's heavily into music does in a nightclub situation.
Right.
You break new records, you play the thing that's less popular because you want to create some other kind of vibe along with what's popular. And certainly genres you're going to get. You're going to get music that is culturally, appropriate for just one specific space. There are plenty of things that were huge hits at the Room that were not huge, that were not radio, and not huge hits at the clubhouse, and vice versa.
That's the beauty.
And that's the beauty of music. So
I heard Gene Carn. I heard Gene Carn. Don't let. I just want to make this statement for the clubhouse. Just for the clubhouse.
Wait a minute. I have my hand up. I'm trying to be polite. Y'all starting to interrupt each other again. That's unfair. Greg Diggs said we need to respect everybody. Y'all keep interrupting. I done raised my hand trying to be polite, and everybody just going on past that. So now,
I didn't see that, Maniac.
Go ahead, Maniac. I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say a lot of people did not know unless you were a super disco jock. And I wasn't a super disco jock, but I used to go to some of the meetings. And Smitty the Mighty Blazer and the other guy, Mr. T the Pisces, used to have DJs in the clubs, all the clubs that they had under the super disco jock. They would say, here's we're giving you this song. We want you to play this song somewhere between 12 and 2 o'clock in the morning on a certain, on Saturday night, Friday, Saturday or Sunday, whenever you're working. We want all the DJs to make sure that they play this song. And that's how super disco jocks helped break the records that they were getting from the record companies. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
That was smart.
I never heard that or never abided by that. I just wanted to clear that record for myself. I was never told by any, but that was early on. That might have happened a little later.
We're not talking about you. I'm talking, see, you keep talking about stuff that's individual to you. I'm talking about stuff that happened that included a lot of people. I'm talking about
no, I'm agreeing with that. I'm just saying that I got you.
All right.
But what I'm saying, I went to the clubhouse and heard Gene Carn, Don't Let It Go to Your Head. I will never forget going to the clubhouse and hearing Don't Let It Go to Your Head by Gene Carn. My lady was with me and we got on that dance floor. It was the first, I believe it was the first time I ever heard Don't Let It Go to Your Head. Now the hip hoppers went on ahead and sampled that. So I love talking about the music. Go ahead. Just wanted to shout out the times that I've been in clubs.
So let me say this, guys. So I think that everybody is coming. We got a lot of different eras here. We
Right.
got
I think that's it.
80s and 90s, right?
70s, 80s, and 90s.
It's kind of no different than, I'm going to relate it to basketball. You were around and you saw Wilt Chamberlain. He might have been your favorite guy.
Right.
Michael Jordan might not have been because he came later. So all I'm saying is we all need to respect each other and say, you know what?
I do respect
during your time when you were playing, did you try to break as many records as you could and not just be Mr. Jukebox up there in your DJ booth?
You better if you wanted to stay in business.
Well, you had to, no, Drum, you had to mix it up.
Right.
You could not. Oh, you're saying you're agreeing with me? Yes. You had to mix it up. You could not just be up there. But now, you know, radio did change a lot of things later. But shout to guys like CeeLo and Charles. Y'all really went above and beyond because you knew what the score was. I played one night with Al B.D. up in that booth. And he told me, we went to commercial. And he told me, what you gonna play? He asked me, what you gonna play next? And I said, well, why don't you go back on that booth on your side and listen? And he was like, no. Nah, you gotta tell me what you gonna play next, because if it ain't the top 5, then you can't play it coming out commercial. And I was like, wow, okay. So my point is that we all got these stories and we all, I think, have broken these records and have tried to make a difference on that dance floor. So
dance floor is number one.
Number one.
Hey,
Sorry
shout
about
out to
that.
everybody, man. I gotta go, but hey, I love this panel, man. Greg, thank you.
It's been great.
A lot of passion.
We'll do it again, that's for sure.
Thank you, Grover. Hey, it was
mate.
We gotta try to do this again, hopefully. Okay?
Oh, but Mike, before you go,
yes,
what was your preferred equipment? I mean, like turntables,
okay, so
headphones, stylus?
I always liked turntables.
And mixers. Don't forget the mixers.
Direct drive. Not direct. I started out with
belt drive.
Belt drive. Belt drive, and then we went to direct. And then when I got my 1200s, thank God, shout out to DC Fats, because that's where I got my.
Don't you do that? Don't you do that, boy?
Better know it.
He worked at the store where I got him from. Okay. So,
oh, that's right.
Shout out to Fats, and when I got 1200s, I loved them. I never wanted to leave them. So when the digital stuff came around, I looked for a controller that had a direct drive platter, spinning platters, and that's what I use. So.
But what about your beginning mixer?
I'm really a vinyl guy.
Mike,
so that was
we can tell behind you.
Okay, Mike.
That's just the show now, though. I ain't touched them in a long time.
But Mike, one other question: what mixer did you start with, and what did you finish with? I mean,
I started with a realistic mixer.
Radio Shack special.
Oh.
And then I went to, I think the next mixer I got was a Newmark.
Okay,
Newmark.
Yeah,
all right.
So believe me, I was
1920.
Yeah, I was seeing the heavy duty stuff in the clubs. I saw those Richard Long systems and marveled at them. So but that was my stuff. That's what.
Right.
Thank you. If somebody else hit the same question before we go.
I started with the Gemini. Well, let's just talk about mixers right now.
Yeah.
Gemini mixer was first.
2200.
Huh?
2200.
I have no idea what the model number was.
The small one. The small
Little
one.
boy, I got that joint from Doug and Stereo. I went to Newmark. By the time I got to places like the Room, I was working on the clubbing mixers. I played on the GLI 9000s. I played on Bozak, in the Rain mixers, and now I'm at Pioneer S11.
Mm-hmm.
But I started out with BSR turntables, and then by the time I got to the Paragon 2, actually even before Paragon, when I was working with Sound Service, we had the Technique 1800, which is the precursor to the 1200s, at least the plastic design anyway. And then by the time I got to the Classic, I was working on the 1200. I'm really a 1200 guy for real.
Paragon 2. Shout to DJ JJ that used to be down there.
Oh Lord, have mercy. Look.
DJ JJ. Put that work in, boy.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you a real quick story about JJ, and we're gonna keep it moving. when I first got up there in '79, I met this cat, right? So we talking, and to make a long story short, that cat told me he didn't give a damn about the music. He didn't care nothing about DJing. He was only up there playing for pussy. Straight up. And I thought about it. I said, okay, that's why he's such a horrible ass DJ, because he don't care. He was horrible.
Hey, cool.
Playing requests.
Horrible.
It's cool. Gary Drew told me the same thing.
Y'all hard, man. Y'all hardcore.
That's messed up.
Y'all tell it like it is. Good Lord.
Playing for pussy. That was his exact words. That was 1979.
He changed. He changed, cool. He changed. He changed.
It was horrible. I mean, I'm a kid of the South. He ain't never cared nothing about really sitting up there putting the music together like that. I mean, he told me straight up. I mean, you know, what you want me to do?
All right, Paul.
How about you, Charles? When y'all get finished. Charles, how about you?
Oh, go ahead. You got
Charles.
Yeah. Well, I started with belt drive turntables, SLB Techniques, SLBD ones. Then I went to direct drive with I think it was the SL300s. They were like more commercial. They weren't really for clubs. And then by the time I got my 1200s in '82, I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to stay. And in Newmark, I started Newmark DM1150. Then I went to the Newmark 1775 because it had a sampler in it. I like that. But before that, it was another Newmark that had one of the first EQs on it. I used to like that, like to pull down all the EQs.
1920.
Oh, right, 1920. Yep, that's it. And yeah, so that's pretty the main thing. And when I used to like to record on my VHS hi-fi, so I could get like 4-hour mix. Like I do a club or a party and record on a VHS in slow speed. I could get 4 hours, and then I would sell the tape at the end of the night for like $100.
Who want to go next? Go
I
ahead.
go next.
Who said that?
I said I'll go next.
Mandrill.
Mandrill. I have to say I was so spoiled by the Richard Long sound system. I mean, that our mixer was not a manufactured mixer. He built the mixer, and it was a three-way crossover. So it was the best thing since apple pie. And after 12 years there, then I had to adjust to everything else in other places. So I ended up for my own house. I had a Uri for a long time.
Right.
And I had a Rain, or either the other direction, a Rain, then a Uri. But
you're doing all knobs though, right, Mandrill? Knobs.
Yeah, definitely on knobs. Yeah, the Richard Long sound system three-way crossover is 3 knobs. And I can take the middle completely out of music, so it'd be so much bass that you couldn't hear the words.
Right.
It'd just be bass and treble. It was amazing.
And the highs were all bullet tweeters hanging from
you just messed around. You ain't got no bullets in your club.
hanging from the ceiling, bro.
Yeah.
There was
Mandrill was
6
playing
of them hanging from the ceiling.
Mandrill played one song, put one record on, and you think he didn't mix something. You didn't took the bass out of it, made it sound like a different song, then put your voice in. You think he didn't mix 2 different songs. It's the same song.
Yep.
It was fun days.
That's with that Bozak mix.
Bullet tweeters out there at Odell. That's when I seen the first system. And then when I came in the clubhouse one night, Mandrill, I did not get a chance to meet you. It was on a straight night, but I think you were playing that particular night. And
That probably was.
We heard Richard Long sound system. Yeah.
CeeLo.
First mix I had was a Radio Shack mic mixer, like we said. And then I got that Gemini and the wood grain. Then I got that Newmark's 1920. That's why I know it so well.
Right.
Talk about it.
The EQ,
That was my
right.
mixer. Yeah, and I love that mixer because it had a crossfader just for the headphone.
Right.
That's why I loved it.
I think that mixer changed the game.
It did.
And then the VU meters, just the way they used to they didn't just go over. They like when it went to a certain point, it would stay. I like technology. But anyway, the 1920, and then I went to the Rain MP24, when I started going to the clubs, you know, the Rain and 1200s. Like I said before, the 1200s, I had one Pioneer and one Kenwood direct drive with the pitch control like this. And that's pretty much, now I'm on a Rain 1, which is Rain's new controller with the platters that turn. They just like turntables. It's a beautiful thing.
Dope. Very dope.
Anybody else? Clayton?
It's a process. I remember using everything from Gerard. I don't know if it's Gerard belt drive. Remember Gerard? Yeah, Gerard belt drives. To Shure amps. We used to have to, and then the knobs that were based on radio. Once again, based on the knobs was really where it kind of began. But instead of waiting for songs to finish, then folks start getting creative with the knobs rather than waiting for a song to end, and that's when it started. Then all the way up through the Numarks, and then GLI, of course. GLI was in the Mark. GLI was in the Mark IV. So it's like I saw this process going, everything from Gerard all the way up into Techniques. When the Techniques turntable, because what did happen with that, with that speed, you were able to mix and cut, mix and cut. You can mess with speeds, and you can see your dancers, you get them down to a certain tempo on the song to be able to take them up into another thing and then speed it up, which is basically one of the beautiful things about mixing, is that you take your dancers to a tempo, and you still got them on the floor. Even if they want to leave, that tempo keeps them there, and then you ride them right on up into another song, and they basically like, damn, I can't leave the dance floor.
How about Maniac? How about you?
That's the plan. I started out with I know y'all saying clubman, but my clubman was a Meteor. They call them Meteor clubman.
Okay.
I had the Meteor clubman 1, then the clubman 2. I had
Clubman,
two Gerard. Two Gerard turned.
Gerard. All right.
I'm trying to remember Maniac.
Yeah, they were rough.
Maniac. That first clubman, was that the small clubman?
Yes, it was small.
The small one, and then I think we installed the Clubman 2, the wilder one in there.
Well, Bird Music made my first. They made me a wooden.
Well, I built it.
Yeah.
I built it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but we had two Gerard turntables, a Meteor Clubman 1. Then I switched to a Clubman 2. I had a PV 260 amp, and I had two Serwin Baker 30s.
Okay.
And I packed it all into my Cadillac easily. Wow. Then I had to do a show.
Oh, this was your rental.
You my kind of man, bro.
Drum, how about you?
Hey, I started, of course, with Radio Shack. Everybody went to Radio Shack, did our thing.
Yeah.
What
about Lafayette?
Yeah, Lafayette too. I forgot about that. And then I went straight to the 1200 turntables. And believe it or not, in my mobile system, I was one of, maybe the only one. I used to carry 3 1200s with me in my mobile set.
Wow.
Three
dedication.
I custom built my own case with 3 1200s in it, and that shit was heavy as I don't know.
It was heavy with two.
And then I got I moved over to the Rain MP24. That still is a heavyweight mixer, boy. And I had that in my mobile system because Mandrill used some of that stuff before, and I just went on from there. Yep. Now I'm into the little my computer with the Serato, and I ain't going back the other way. I fought it for a minute because I made my cash on records. We know that.
Yeah.
But when finally I had to make the changeover, I said, man, I can't carry this stuff no more.
Exactly.
So I'm going Serato, and I've been Serato ever since, and still doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, Gary,
Mine is pretty much the same thing everybody else said. The GLI, the new marks. But I will say, started out with that belt-driven turntable.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
With the wax paper. had the special wax paper with the felt.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, you learned how to mix though, didn't you?
That's what I was about to say, Mike.
Yeah.
I think
Learn how to mix.
I think those of us that started out with the belt-driven tables.
Hell yeah.
Once that 1200 came out, it changed all of our lives.
Everything.
It changed the game 100%.
Did anybody ever play on 1100s? Techniques? 1100s?
I did.
I've seen them.
Played on 1500s.
11s, the 15s.
1500s.
I've seen the whole.
They were terrible.
Yeah.
What was the 1100s though?
I played on the 1800s.
Yeah.
Because that's what I started off actually.
Whatever you played on, the slip mat was one of the most important things. So no matter what turntable you played on, that slip mat came in, and I think got very interesting. When that slip mat came in, you was able to do your thing. So let's give a little props to the slip mat.
Well, Greg, that's all you had to say about the mixer?
Yeah, I was going. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The album covers, how about that?
Yeah. Again, I didn't hear that. What was that?
We was using album covers too as a slip mat.
Oh, yeah, album covers. No, see, let's get real. Album covers was the original slip mat, no question. That's what I'm giving you props.
And you use the insert,
Come on. Now see, one thing leads to another. One thing leads to another. Jack, y'all taking me, but I say slip mat, and y'all are reminding me about the album covers as the damn slip mat.
Paper towels. Paper towls.
Man,
come on, bro. Come on.
Cut right wax paper. The cut right wax paper.
Okay, let Mandrill
Come
go
on,
ahead.
man. Come on. Tell the truth.
Mandrill, go ahead.
No, there's one other thing that I think that some of the younger guys might find interesting. For 12 years, the 12 years I was at the clubhouse, I didn't use headphones. They had the booth set up in the system built. They had basically two speakers that acted as the headphones right a foot and a half from your head in the DJ booth. So I don't have the neck issue or the ear issue that can develop from headphones over the years.
Yeah, the Richard
Till I went to the Ritz, and 3 years my ears was ringing.
Yeah.
You know what? That's true. I visited
They had
the
the
booth
click
at the
box.
club.
It was a click
That's
box.
called a monster.
Richard Long's.
Yeah.
Click. They called it click
Yeah,
box.
it was just.
It's had a mid-range.
We did have a headphone we could switch to, but for the most part, we just used those two speakers for queuing.
Yep.
And the system was so powerful they couldn't hear that on the floor.
Yep.
And you use it, so it was basically two huge speakers for headphones.
Yep.
That's true.
You line up the kicks and the snares. Yep.
We had that at the Mark IV too. When we just had two monitors sitting up there by the turntable.
Yeah, way easy on your ears and your neck.
Yep, that's right.
Hey, Mandrill,
Yo.
I bet you the only DJ on this panel that used a lollipop headphone. Guaranteed.
No, you mean the one headphone?
No, one headphone.
What?
You said because I have my painted orange and blue. That's
I got a question.
I'm sorry, Charles Dixon.
I got a question. I got a question. Since you said that, Mike, anybody remember the telephone?
Telephone. That was great. You mentioned that too. You had a phone. Did you have that, girl?
I made one out of a black phone.
Somebody had a
one of
phone.
them joints.
Tommy Hall had one in his basement.
Nah, I made one out of my phone.
Yeah.
Mandrill, Maniac.
All the way.
Maniac.
Yeah.
You remember Tommy Hall's basement? He had the phone tied to the music.
Oh, good. Yeah. But Tommy Hall was a genius. I tell you, he had speakers. You could be down and you could go upstairs in the kitchen and he had speakers in the kitchen. You could hear what he was playing in the basement.
Yep.
Yeah, speakers all over the place.
I met Tommy Hall at the Pitts Motor Lounge, where Martin Luther King used to come into Washington, D.C., and different people like him would come to stay. And they sent me there to play at the Pitts Motor Lounge. And my equipment had some problems, and they had hired Tommy to be the guy that come in and fix your shit. The crowd got unruly. They was like, well, what the hell is going on with your equipment, man? I asked him, I said, did you pay a cover charge? which they didn't. So that backed them up for a little while. And Tommy came and he corrected, he fixed the equipment, and we went on. If there were some witnesses to the French Underground, if there were some witnesses, they would recall me passing out cowbells, tambourines, and whistles to the dancers on the dance floor, where they would pass on cowbells to one another.
Well, that's good stuff.
Whistles and tambourines.
That's good stuff.
Yes, to songs like Fight the Power. Deep times in Washington D.C. I stayed here because I couldn't believe how many clubs. I worked every day but Monday, like the barber shops. I would work Tuesday through Sunday, the midday party on top of it, which we haven't covered. That would be at another time, I guess. That's a whole nother conversation. But I got to DC and I couldn't believe the type of dance and celebratory atmosphere that was here. And people would say, why did you stay in DC? Because I actually went on and did some acting, which a lot of DJ Smitty wanted to be an actor. West Party Johnson wanted to be an actor. T-Funk, a lot of cats wanted to branch out, be other things like, musicians, and work in various. When I sat the 12-inch record section in the Harmony Hut record store, it was a Harmony Hut record store in Springfield, Virginia, and at L'Enfant Plaza in DC. I told the Harmony Hut, I said, it was a soul music category at that time. Black music was just called soul music. You would come in, get rock, soul, and jazz. That's all black music was in the 70s early, was under soul music. I told them, I said, this club scene is so hot that very shortly, people are going to come in here and want to buy 12-inch records. You have to establish a section. They told me, well, you go ahead and establish that. So when we talk about breaking records, this is what I'm trying to offer. I established the 12-inch record section in the Harmony Hut record shop. And when I did it, white folks, black folks would come in asking, there's a song, but it's different. It's on the album. I brought the album, but it's different. Right. And I said, well, you're looking for the 12-inch of Roy Ayers' Runaway. I got the album, but it doesn't sound like what the DJs are spinning. He said, well, you're looking for the 12-inch. Here's the 12-inch section. It's beautiful, y'all.
Now, you know what, Clayton? Hey, Clayton, when I got to 12-inch dance records on DuPont Circle, when I first got there, they had disco, house, heavy on both walls. There was not a hip hop record on the wall.
And 12-inch, wonderful. Wow.
Not one single hip hop record.
And that was 90, right?
That was 90.
That was 90?
That's right. Resh had that. Resh was a disco guy, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Hardcore disco guy.
That's true. That's true.
All right. So by the time I left there was almost an entire side of that wall. That right side of that wall was completely hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way you feel about what you just said is the same way I feel about what happened there. I changed his mind.
Yep.
Yeah. He didn't want to go that route. He know nothing about hip hop records. He didn't really care about them.
Nope.
And time as well changed his mind.
Exactly.
Say again, time changed his mind.
And money. People were walking in there.
The demand was great.
That's right. So
somebody mentioned Holy Ghost. Somebody mentioned Holy Ghost. It's a 12-inch.
I did.
Go ahead, brother.
No, I'm just saying, I mentioned Holy Ghost. Yeah, I was the one that mentioned.
Oh, you do? Okay, but I'm saying that 12-inch thing took off. I like 12-inch records. I would go there quite a bit, but you're right. And hip hop was well established by the 90s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, it was well established.
You couldn't tell if you walked in 12-inch and looked at the walls.
No, it definitely was. It was in the store, but it wasn't on the wall. That's true.
DG was late.
Because I started in that store when they first opened. In fact, a year before it opened, Rex asked me in the booth in the clubhouse if he opened a store, would I be willing to work for him?
Yes.
I ended up being the historian for the store because I've been buying records since I was 8 years old.
Right.
When did it close? When did it close up?
When the store or the clubhouse?
The store, the 12-inch record store.
I think they closed in, Mike, you would know better than I didn't know. I was only there for 7 years. I was there from 85 to 92.
I was there from 90 to 97. Not long after 97, they closed and became DJ Hut.
DJ Hut, yeah, with James Graham.
James and Chris.
And Chris, yeah.
Chris Styles.
Chris Styles, yeah.
Over made it DJ Hut, and they did an incredible job in there.
I used to go to Melody on DuPont Circle and buy a lot of music from Melody Record Store.
I didn't hear nobody mention the Soul Shack. That's why I used to get my
Oh, come on, man. Come with the Soul Shack.
Nobody mentioned the Soul Shack, and that was the
No,
number
that's-
one record shop.
That's the funk record store, hip hop.
Where was that at? Where was that at?
1200 block of G Street.
Yeah, right.
G Street.
Hey, Maniac, that's where you got all them KC and Sunshine Band records from. I know. How much KC?
Hey, Maniac, the Soul Shack is the foundation.
How much
Soul
is
Shack.
KC paying you, man? Because if y'all ain't heard Maniac work at KC Record,
Like crazy.
I mean, dude, what do you do with those breakdowns? I was leaving Bay Street one night. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. This man, not long ago, was playing on PFW. And KC and the Sunshine Band record came on, and this man beat the mess out of that breakdown.
I'm your boogeyman.
The boogeyman. That's exactly what it was.
Who get down by T Connection?
Hey, Mandrill. Maniac.
Yeah.
See, people couldn't go to the room in a brand new suit.
Oh, yes, they could.
No, if they did, it didn't look like a new suit anymore.
That's right.
No, it'd be dirty when they leave.
Yeah, that's right. I want the sweat coming through their shirt, so they try to be cool with that suit.
I mean, and look, they come in with a jerry curl. They come in with a jerry curl and come out with a fro.
A blowout.
It should have been called no. It should have been called no room because you got up in there. It was packed up in that motherfucker. It should have been called no room.
I wouldn't play a slow record until the windows fogged up.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question on that, Maniac. That's because it was just that type of crowd? You know what I mean? Were you interested in playing slow records, or just that's what it was?
No, I just want to keep. I just tried to hurt somebody.
You did.
Okay.
Can I say something, Maniac? Maniac, I saw you. Maniac, I saw you at the IBEX. So this was later. This was like,
yep. Me
This
too.
was like, this had to be like 94, 95 or something like that.
Yeah. I retired in 95, so it had to be 94.
So about 94? Okay. Yeah. I came in there to see, and I didn't know who you were, Maniac. But I'm a DJ, so I'm listening. I'm paying attention to everything you're doing right now, you know?
Yeah.
And one thing, like I said, that everybody else has said about you is that you held a break. I call them breaks. So like,
yep, it's breaks. Mm-hmm.
You hold a break like no other. And see, so for example, when I look at like, okay, of course, DJ Kool, I realize now that he was you know kind of his mentor. So when I saw DJ Kool playing, and then I saw DJ Flex playing, and then I saw DJ Rico playing, these are all like, I'm not no disrespect to Kool or nothing, but you must have originated that style of talking about that.
He's the root of everybody you just named.
Right.
So listen.
Create little maniacs.
Little maniacs. There you go. Little maniacs.
You holding those breaks. So you holding those breaks and talking over that. I never picked up the mic and talked at all. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like, so when I saw you doing that, I was just like, man, this is a whole different level right here. I don't think I'm gonna ever get to.
True story.
I didn't have that personality. I felt like the DJs I learned from, I felt like I saw them and they didn't talk on the mic, but they had the room moving.
Right, exactly.
And so that's the path I took. But I would definitely respected you. I was like, what? Wait a minute, hold up. You know, and the first, okay, so for example, the first club I played in Maryland on a regular basis was the Oak Tree.
Oak Tree.
And I was playing with Rico. DJ Rico was the resident DJ.
Right.
And Chocolate Jam.
Right.
So Rico.
Chocolate Jam. Shout out to Chocolate Jam.
So Rico.
Going way back.
No, Rico was the master. I would say he definitely learned from you because he could hold the blend for like 5 minutes. The blend would be holding. I mean, he's holding it.
Yeah.
And talking all kind of shit on the mic. It was amazing to me. Like,
was he looping it or was he doing it physically?
Yes. He was. He had 2 turntables and a mic, bro.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's when he had no computer, nothing. I mean, it was the vinyl.
Okay, yeah, that's rough. Yeah.
So what y'all? I mean, you influence so many people. I don't even think you know, but you might know. But listen, you definitely, yeah. I mean, I salute.
That's when astrology came into the picture. Brothers was rapping and asking the audience, going through the signs. You know, it was all kinds of what they call it in culture is call and response.
Exactly.
You know, you call it call and response. Yeah, and that's the school at Maniac, Smitty the Mighty Blazer, cats that are showmen. They will go through the zodiac sign on your ass. They will go through what part of town you come from. You know what I mean? They'll make it personal. They'll make the personal relate to the music. It's beautiful.
I saw it at the Ibex for first hand. I was like, wow.
DJ Cool. Hey, DJ Cool. DJ Cool. So I worked at Liaison Distribution, which we did all the go-go records, basically. We did Chuck, we did all the go-go bands. We distributed all their stuff to everybody in the area. And one time we did CeeLo did a mix, Flex did a mix, and I did a little something too, right? So we were running the commercial for the one I did. And this is when I got a whole nother perspective and just awe at Cool. We in the studio, and Cool was saying, he had to say the lines in the commercial. And Cool's voice was like an instrument.
Yes.
Always been.
He become
like a trumpet.
Yep.
Or you know what I'm saying? So he's able to use his voice like an instrument. Like showmanship, all that stuff y'all talking about, that was cool. I mean, I saw him at the East Side. Flex told me to play upstairs for him one night at the East Side. I was playing up there. I thought I was doing something good. I was up there cranking, you know. And I was like, the people, it was a good little crowd up there.
Right.
I came downstairs at the end of my set because the upstairs closed first. And that was where the crowd was. DJ Cool was behind that. He was behind that glass partition.
Yep.
All I could say was, Cool, you got slaves in here. It was like there was Cool slaves. If Cool said, I want all y'all to run down there and jump off that bridge and jump high now.
They going. That's where they going.
He was the Pied Piper.
Yeah, how about that?
And you know what? What I liked about Cool is he became part of the record. Like kind of whack and like remix it live vocally and change the things around. And you think, is that the record or is that him?
Hey Charles, and holding the blend for about 5 minutes.
reminded me of Bobby Bird to James Brown.
Yes.
See, I'll never talk about clubs. I can never talk about clubs or discos or DJing without the Godfather of Soul. Can never do it because up in Yonkers, where I'm from, we would spend a whole evening of James Brown. Nothing but James Brown. James Brown is so crucial to the dance music in this country that when we talk about clubs or music, dance music, this man has got to be mentioned. And Bobby Bird, I know you got DJ Cool and them cats like that, the Smitties and them and the Hollywood Breezes, they remind me of the Bobby Bird to James Brown. James was rolling, but when Bobby released, I know you got soul, or you wouldn't be in here. That's club. You wouldn't be in this club. You wouldn't be in the clubhouse if you there's a dance floor that had the spot where you could sit down and smoke your little joints or whatever. But you know, when you come into a club, certain clubs was about dressing nice or whatever, but you come into a club, it's about dancing.
Yes.
It's about dance. I saw Roy Ayers. I was spending one night at Ed Murphy's Supper Club, another club dimension where Donny Hathaway. This is how far back we go. In the 70s, Ed Murphy, who was a giant in this town, who started the Harambe House Hotel. This man is a giant in Washington, D.C. in terms of entrepreneurship. When we talk about the hip hop elements of street entrepreneurship, we got to talk about Ed Murphy. So he opened up a supper club where the baddest, and Roy Ayers came in there. He introduced a sister. I opened up for Roy with the turntables. And it was a beautiful thing. It's like, wow. And you say, but Clay, you got a chance. I said, I'm in the way. I'm opening up. So he comes on and he introduces a sister named Chicas. And he says, I want to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, Chicas from your town, Washington, D.C. And there was the little weak-ass applause. He literally told her to go backstage, and he upbraided that audience. He said, you look good with your suits and tie hair. I know I'm in the nation's capital. Y'all look good, you're clean, but I just introduced a woman from your hometown. And you got this little tippet ass response. So I'm gonna try it again. And he introduced it again. The girl came out. So Ed Murphy's would have DJs come in, spin before the acts. The same thing with the DC Armory. I opened up for Chaka Khan. I was spinning at the Anacostia High School. Grover and his brother did the flyers. So it's a mixture of the mobile going into the clubs. And it's just a beautiful thing when you share music with a large group or a smaller intimate crowd.
Well, I'm sure.
OG, let me say something to you. Let me say something to OG.
Grover, look at the hands.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Go ahead.
I see that.
You need to look at the hands before you call them.
You ain't seen mine. I had to put up twice.
And Gary had his up too. Gary Drew had his hand up too.
Oh.
Okay. I just wanted to say that, and I have to be honest. And Clayton, you know, he hit a nerve when he was talking about the Godfather of Soul.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff that I do, and as far as my DJing is concerned, came from James Brown.
We can tell.
The way I play my music, I say, hi, wait a minute, get down, hold up, horns.
Yes,
and I mix my music. I say horns and I hit the horns, or I say bass and hit the bass. Whatever I'm doing, I'm James Brown orientated. So
come on.
That's where I got my language from. And DJ Cool, he's followed that as well. I think he's James Brown orientated and don't even know it. But that's where it all comes from. Them cadences that James Brown called out, I use that in my DJing career.
Well, you got it from James and I got it from you.
So look, James Brown, since we talk about James Brown, there would be no hip hop without James Brown.
Those breaks.
That's right.
And those drums.
I don't even know the funky drummer. You know I got Soul Bobby Bird, Mind Power.
Yeah. Mind Power, come on.
We can keep on going. I mean, he got so many songs that can sample by him.
Yeah.
Nobody sampled. He
sampled artists out there.
Yeah.
Most sampled artists out there.
So James Brown is definitely the man.
Whose hand is up now?
The Root.
Gentlemen, I'm gonna have to go. It's like 11:30 now. I haven't even eaten dinner, so I'm like running around biting chicken and walking back over to the street.
Well, we already 2 hours over.
Man, it's a pleasure seeing
you.
It's
a pleasure to be here and hear all this good energy coming from all these music lovers. So,
good to see all of y'all.
Yeah,
it's an honor to be in the company of you guys.
See you on part 2, man.
Take care, man, Drill.
Yeah, take care.
Take care, man, Drill.
All right.
Okay.
See y'all soon, man. Hopefully,
man, Joe. Thanks a lot, man, Joe.
You're welcome.
Before everybody go, what are you guys doing now? Any special projects?
I got a new single out right now called Cha Cha Cha, which is going to officially be released next week with the video.
Loving it.
Who got it?
Thank you. And I also do a broadcast on a platform called GoGo TV every Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. I play number 80s and 90s Go-Go.
All right.
Wow.
I'm working on this is CeeLo. I have like 5 house records out right now. I think Charles, I need to send them to you. I think I did send them to you, maybe.
No, you didn't. I need them. I need them.
Okay, I'm gonna send them to you. But I got one house record. It's called Toast to the Weekend. All the house DJs in DC and Baltimore have been banging it.
I need that.
I got you. I'm gonna send it to you. But it's I'm doing house music. I didn't want to do hip hop because hip hop is not where I wanted to be right now. You know, it's not. I'm not with it right now. So I basically play the classics, and I'm in the studio, and I'm on Twitch every day at noon. We're doing a free lunch mix like we used to do on PGC on Twitch every day.
Nice.
Let me say something. Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say, Cool left this out, but all of the guys that still have affiliations with radio stations, it would be nice if y'all could, if Cool could send y'all his song. That Cha Cha Slide is real nice to help break that one.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
we're
nothing like breaking
We're not playing. We're not breaking that.
Why you not breaking that?
Because they late to the party, man. Yeah. We've been playing that for 4 months.
But Cha Cha Slide.
Whatever he dropped, we gonna run that. He used to drop break records. Clap your hands, everybody. Clap your hands, everybody.
Okay, well, that's cool, but we talking about now. We want Cha Cha Slide out there like that.
We gonna blow it up. We gonna blow it up, man.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Cool.
Okay.
I have to get everybody's emails. So
You sent it to me as soon as you made it. I play at the parties. I shows them on house and club, but when I do my regular parties,
he needs some airplay. He needs airplay though.
Yeah.
Very easy
to make it happen, Maniac. Maniac, we're gonna make some phone calls, Maniac. We're gonna make it happen.
Okay, that's
that's
my son.
We can do that. We can do that.
That's my son.
He's pushing it real hard right now on Magic. And shout out to Easy. He's pushing it on HUR right now.
Good.
It's easy so far, at least in this.
Need to get Frank Ski though, Cool, because you know he's on there. He's in our circle.
Yeah.
I gotta get in contact with him. Yeah.
I'll send you his info. I got it. He's in it back and forth. He's back in DC now, where he was from Atlanta. I think he's doing both.
HUR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
He's
Cool,
on that
so you-
news show. He's got that. He got Basin's old spot from 3 to 7.
So Cool, when you say Easy, you mean Easy Street?
Easy Street, yes. I meant to say Easy
Okay.
Street.
And who's playing it on Magic? I just trying to make sure.
Donnie Simpson.
Okay, so Rico playing it.
Rico started it, but
okay.
Actually Donnie is the one that, you know what I mean?
No, I'm just saying, like I just need to know who to get on the phone with and be like, hey man, that DJ Cool joint, you running that?
Right.
Get on it.
Yeah, that's how we roll. That's how we roll.
That's what I'm talking about. Go ahead. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, CeeLo.
Yeah.
Hey, CeeLo, this drum. If you call somebody, I could have sent that to you months ago, man. Come on now.
What you talking about?
I'm talking about DJ Cool's Cha Cha Cha.
Listen, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Drum. Let me tell you what happened. I got sick, right? I got congestive heart failure, so I was down for a minute.
Oh wow!
So,
Sorry to hear that.
I mean, I'm just not getting back. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, I mean, I saw him shooting the video. You know, the clips of the video. I'm very excited to see that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know,
I missed the video shoot, but I've been sending that out all over the country, man.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good now. I mean, God, got me. You know what I'm saying? But I was down for a minute. I think
COVID. You still here, baby.
I'm here.
All
We're
right.
gonna run this music.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Guys, I'm out.
All right.
Great to see all y'all, man. I gotta go.
Okay.
That's Sky.
Greg, thank you.
Good seeing you, Mike.
Where's Greg at?
Thank you, Grover. We appreciate it.
Salute to all the DJs.
Yep. Hey, Cool.
Salute.
Yeah. I gotta break out too.
DJ Cool.
All right.
Hey,
Charles.
It's been lovely. Please, all y'all call me. Let's do it.
All right, Charles.
All right, Charles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peace.
All right.
Take care, Mike.
Man.
Okay, y'all take it easy.
Y'all have a good night out there.
All right.
DJ Cool for you. Oh, you gone?
See y'all.
Put them masks on.
All right.
Them panties.
Yeah,
Them panties.
for real.
That ain't no mask.
on. Put Put the mask on.
Eardrum got the panties on, talking about
Put the mask on.
Thongs on.
What you call them? Put the mask on.
Yeah, okay.
There you go, Grover. There you go. There you go, Grover.
That's headphones.
All right, good
Somebody's
night.
hand kept popping up. Whose hand was popping?
I couldn't see him. But anyway, it's been nice, guys. It took
night.
a life of its own. It took a life of its own.
Thanks a lot, Greg. I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you all for being a part of this, man. It's really a special night. Really do appreciate it. You know, it's fantastic.
All right, part 2 coming up.
Part 2 coming
You
up.
got to do it for part 2.
Yeah, we got to do this again.
Yeah, no question, no question. And we definitely want to have y'all involved in the documentary too when we get that going too. You know.
Okay.
Well, there's certain things we weren't able to get to, you know, so, you know, Greg's book, you know, that kind of thing. We didn't get to Greg's book that, you know, that he has out as published.
We didn't have so much time, Clayton.
Yeah.
I came in a little late on that one.
I said we didn't have so much time.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. This is something that can be just. That's what I love about it. You know what I mean? It's deep. You know. This whole and it's a look toward the future, and it's actually economic because as you talk about these things with the young people get on it. Magazines, you know, there's going to be this stuff will be written. They'll be printed. As much as we talk about the computers, there's the you know trade magazines, Goldmine, Wax Poetics, Billboard. You know, there'll be future trade magazines that will be coming up from people who learn from some of the DJs that have been out there that can share different information. And young people start up a printing thing. Say, man, I got a new public. Tommy, when you mentioned Tommy Hall, you know, brother had, you know, a newsletter out. You know, it wasn't a magazine, but it was a very important. What was Mike's name? His partner name was Mike. Grover, do you remember Tommy's partner, a cat named Mike?
I
don't know his
I remember
last
the
name.
first name. I can't think of the last name.
And then you know, you hear Eardrum talk about picking up on that. See, that's what I'm talking about. You hear brothers talking about hearing Greg spin and then or somebody spin and then getting you know, inspired by that, and it gives life, man. This shit is important to me. And when it can be expressed in magazines, it's called music journalism. That's coming. It's coming, and it's economics. It's economics. It's jobs. I don't like to say jobs, but it's work opportunities for people for cash flow to happen, for people to live a little better. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let me just say this, guys. I appreciate everything because, like, I was struggling through this first live stream because, you know, I didn't have any major issues. You know, a few things, but I'm just happy with that part of it. You know.
Well, I just want to say, back in the day, DJs used to really support each other and everything they did, and as Greg Diggs said, we had a mutual respect.
No question.
But, I mean, now Greg Diggs got a book out called The DNA of Greg
That's
Diggs.
right.
I think all the DJs, if they want to support, they should buy that book, even though it's been out.
That's right.
How long that book been out, Greg?
Well, actually, the 5th anniversary is going to be September 12th. So I'm gonna
See, we should. It would be nice if we celebrated that 5th anniversary by ordering that book.
Well,
now,
let me ask you guys
I got
this.
the book. I ain't read it yet, but I just bought it just because it was Greg Diggs, and I'm gonna read it. I haven't read it yet, but I'm gonna have plenty.
Well, I would like to ask you, Maniac, and Greg too, are y'all familiar with Wax Poetics?
Yeah, you had mentioned it to me earlier.
No, I'm not.
Greg is going to be in Wax Poetics very shortly. You got a book published. When the material Wax is a very serious music journalist. They've been out there for over 10 years. They're not really a magazine. It's like a soft cover journal.
Oh, okay.
It's not you know, and they've been out there for a while, and they cover music like I've never seen. Yeah. I've never seen music covered in journalism like this cat. When they get certain, Grover could tell you.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, well, I'm just talking about supporting DJs that are doing things now that would somehow help them out. I think that book even it's 5 years old, but it would be nice if we, all the DJs went and got a copy just to support it, just because he's one of. I mean, we were back in the day. We used to support each other in every way, form, or fashion that we could. If a DJ we knew put out a record, even though he might give us a couple of copies, guess what? I still went out and bought the record.
Went out and bought it too. Yeah.
Just to support it. I mean, and I'm not. And he got a book. We should support that book. We should have talked about this earlier when everybody was on, but when we talked about it again, I think
we showed a slide of it. Well, you guys couldn't see it, but the book flashed.
I think even when you send something to thank everybody for attending, Grove, we should say, hey, everybody support Greg Diggs' book for his 5th anniversary by September 12th. Make sure you get a copy. I ordered mine from Amazon. They can order from Amazon or go to Barnes and Nobles or whatever the case may be.
I got mine's on my iPad, on my Kindle.
And what date was that? What date was that? September
12th.
September 12th.
Yeah. September 12th. Okay.
The other thing too that I wanted to mention, I mean, I know nobody's on here right now, but I also wrote a screenplay, and it's called Anacostia, movie screenplay.
Oh, yeah?
So we're in the process of now trying to shop and whatever, but it's about this 18-year-old kid in Anacostia, and he meets this 32-year-old woman, a sophisticated woman, and they have this little relationship. But it turns into a lot of twists and turns. But I'm really excited about that because
congratulations, man.
You're going to be talking about that.
And the thing about it is, it's going to be talking also about the fact that Anacostia is where Frederick Douglass actually lives.
Yeah, right, exactly.
True,
this kid lives 3 blocks away from Frederick Douglass's house.
Right.
But it's the way my whole elevator pitch for this screenplay is Boys in the Hood meets Get Out.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, wow.
And what happens in it, and it's a lot of twists and turns, but it's definitely based in Anacostia.
Wow.
And it's a love letter to DC and a love letter to Southeast DC and Anacostia.
Right.
Okay.
That's what you're supposed to be promoting, Greg.
Right. But
well, like I said, this panel was not about me. This is supposed to be about everybody.
Right.
Even the ones who weren't here.
Yeah, I mean exactly. Even the ones who weren't not here. But no, it's supposed to be about everybody, and I'm going to have plenty of opportunities to hopefully to promote this movie. But we're really excited about that.
When is it going to be released and how?
Well, right now I'm just completed the screenplay. We're shopping it. I'm sending it out to several different people, and we're working on some production things and things like that nature. But
good luck, man. Good luck.
Yeah.
But it is about Anacostia, Southeast DC.
All right.
It's based in Anacostia.
Are you planning on putting it on the big screen or just running it through Netflix or Amazon or something?
All of the above.
Okay.
All of the above.
I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. Now Clayton has a play, the record store. Clayton, well, tell him about your play.
You talk about Anacostia. I just came out of Anacostia before the pandemic. We had a successful run of a play that I've written and directed called RS24, Record Store 24. It's about a cat that keeps his record shop open like a 7-Eleven. And we had a successful run of the show at the Anacostia Playhouse. And we were going to extend it, but that's when the pandemic hit.
Oh, yeah, not that pandemic.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Right. So it's going to ease up. So we on record now. This play premiered in Anacostia. So Greg comes in, does his play. See, there's that history that's being built here in D.C. Grover and I have talked about the initial thing about a short film on the midday party, which we didn't cover. Like I said, there's always a lot you can never get to. You can never get to the fullness of it, and that's just the way it is. It's just too much. But Grover and I have talked about a short film, not necessarily a feature, because once you do a short film, it can always branch off into a feature. But the midday party, that's being discussed as a short film as we speak.
Okay.
Well, guys.
Also, I'm recording. I'm going to begin recording for the first time. I have a song called "Cuckoo Crime," aka Homicide. We all know the reality of Chicago, D.C., New York, urban centers where some people call it black on black crime. I don't call it black on black crime because somebody is providing the guns and the bullets. Black people don't manufacture bullets as we speak. Unless somebody tells me differently, I don't know any black companies that manufacture guns and bullets. That's right. So when people talk about black on black crime, I ask them, name the black company that manufactures guns and bullets, and I haven't gotten the answer yet. So I've written a song called Cuckoo Crime, AKA Homicide. I did a television show for NBC for 7 years called Homicide. So this one is very close to me. And I'll be going in the recording studio very soon, but I want to do a lyric video first, rather than doing some kind of big visual, you know, with women crying and the whole bit. We see that on the news. So I'm just going to do a lyric video with this piece. Hook up. It can be done in a wide variety of style, but the lyrics deal with this ever-present problem we have of, you know, young people taking guns and bullets and taking people's lives a little too early.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this up, guys.
Okay.
It's been great. We've been up here what 3 hours and 49 minutes.
All right. Wow.
50 minutes, because you know you get ready to give a goodbye speech. Go ahead.
Please. I'm like y'all. Look. I'm not like you, Maniac. I'm like Greg and Mandrill. You know, I've just played the records. But it's been real, guys. I mean, but like I said, it took a life of its own. But it's been real. You know.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm just happy I got through with no major issues. You know, that was a major plus for me, because I was. Greg, you know, all week, man, I was on pins and needles.
On pins and needles.
Well, Grover, I just want to personally thank you, man, because I want everybody. I would love to have done it when everybody was here, but I just want everybody to know exactly how much work and effort you put into what you're doing. You know,
yes.
It's a lot to put this technically together, and I really got to thank you for that, man, because you did it on short notice too. Because we had like 2.5 weeks to pull this together.
Yeah, because you know I wanted to do it later. You said no, I want to do it earlier.
Yeah, and so I really just want to give you your props, man, for just making it happen. Because I know I couldn't have done it on my own.
But you know what?
I couldn't have done what you did.
I appreciate your organization, because without that, I don't think I would have made it. I mean, you know, you organized, and that kept me going. So I appreciate it, really. But I respect all of you brothers, each and every one of you. And the good thing about this is that I've always been a fan of each and every one of you. I think I've danced to just about everybody's music except for the guys in the 90s. You know, I mean, Maniac, I used to come through there. And a lot of times you didn't see me. Sometimes you did. But most of the times you saw me when I was coming doing a service call. We had to change.
Yeah, now I saw you there.
Change those amps up in the ceiling. Boy, I used to hate having to be on that call. But
them amps in the ceiling above my head, I'm wondering if these things ever gonna fall.
Right, absolutely. But guys, it's been real, and I feel real good about this. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot about the music. That's the one common denominator is the music. That's the one thing that ties everybody together is the music. No matter how you look at it, whatever your opinions are, it's the thing that ties everybody together.
That's right.
It's our love of music. I could have easily been one of you guys out there spinning, you know, but my love of music kept me with you guys. You know.
Yeah.
I can make some tapes, but but they would not have been mixed. Yep. But anyway, guys, we're gonna end this and we're gonna say goodbye on this.
Maniac Mcleod.
Hey.
All right.
Yeah.
Grover, Greg.
All right.
Let's stay in touch. Eardrum, take it easy, man.
All right,
and Eardrum, find that logo.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna get that to you.
Man, I mean, folks used to say, yeah, it's that truck, white truck with a dog with some headphones.
Yeah. That was one of Eardrum's ex-girlfriends when he was in school.
Okay.
It's almost like a graffiti. It's almost like a graffiti tag. That logo is a graffiti tag.
Man, it's a classic, man.
It was, Clayton.
Come on. It was a classic logo, really. It was. As a graphic designer, I'm telling you.
A mobile graffiti tag. How about that? The first mobile graffiti tag.
Yeah, Jim, you gotta find that picture, man. You
got to.
I'm just sorry that this was before the cell phone cameras and all that.
Oh yeah, because you would have. That's what I said. Nobody carry no cameras around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about the selfies that you guys could have taken.
Oh, good gracious! Yeah.
Think about the selfies. If you had to go back, and I'm sorry everybody's not here for this question too. if you know, think about you playing and think about the different selfies. We're not talking about the photos that the club DJ may have taken, whatever.
Yeah.
Or the one that was traveling around with the record company. I'm just talking about that spontaneous selfie, you know.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Eardrum, did you know Mike Kidd had passed?
Yeah, I knew Mike passed. Yeah.
I got the information on the funeral. I need to send that to y'all.
Where's the funeral?
Okay, it might be on Facebook by now. It might be on Facebook.
Because usually Tony Winger would have called me by now or something like that.
Yeah, he might not have the information neither, because I just got that. It just came out today.
Or it just came in?
Just came in today. Let me see if I. Okay.
Wow.
Let's see. Okay, it's on September the 2nd.